celebration in the streets of LA as word spread that Iran's supreme leader was killed in the attack. More than 200,000 Iranians live in California. Many fled the regime that ruled there for 47 years, and they welcome change.
United States and Israel, they are there to change the regime.
Events reached a tipping point after the Iranian crackdown on protesters last month that killed thousands. Iranians here demanded the U.S. government take military action.
We want to say thank you to President Trump. This is the only person who supported us in the last 50 years. Every single people in Iran knew that the only way that this regime is going to go away is that to attack them.
For the first time in their lives, many here are expressing optimism for a new life in Iran. Now you're expecting regime change.
Yes.
And hopeful about it.
Hopeful.
You've got a smile on your face.
Yes, I do.
Even though your friends and family may be in danger.
Yes, to have no choice.
Mohammed Ghaffarian left Iran more than 50 years ago, but for his loved ones still there, the violence and uncertainty is overwhelming.
Tears.
Are they tears of joy?
Tears of joy and tears of sadness for the family.
Yeah, because you just don't know.
I do.
Well, communication with people inside Iran is still very difficult. In many cases, the government has blocked access to the internet, so many people here have still not yet spoken with their families. But that doesn't seem to stop the celebration here tonight.
How can you be silent? This is not okay. I'm no longer going to support Democrats. You Iranians, none of you should support Democrats. I'm honest. Honestly, I'm livid. I'm livid. I'm done with them completely. Just acknowledge the truth. Islamist Marxism is a terrorist entity. 90 million Iranians held hostage for 47 years because of your silence. American people, this is not about being politically correct. This is not about Islam. This is not about religion. This is about a cult. I beg you, I urge everyone, Democrat, Republican, please stand for people of Iran. This time, please stand by us. I beg you. I beg you.
Mr. Mark Ruffalo, why are you talking about the ICE, that one single woman that died, that came in front of ICE? I don't understand where you guys want to take this with Gaza and Hamas and the Islamic Republic of Iran. Neither of you have lived under the Islamic Republic tyranny that you guys are talking about the death of one single woman that have came in front of an ICE agent, a police. And you guys are talking about, you guys have human rights. You guys have everything that you need in your life. We have been taken, our lives have been taken away from us. You guys have everything, and you guys once have one president in your country that wants the best for the people of America that have built the land for 250 years. America has a right to have a country. America has a right to have a country as much as Iranians have a right to have a country. So let's get the facts right here, all right? Let's not get ourselves lost in this illusion that you guys have been building for us, for people.
On this Sunday evening, I literally could have done that. No kidding. I could have done that for another hour. There is so much stuff out there, and very little of it is being spread by the mainstream media. They don't want people to see this. And after I watched that, because as I was putting it together and stitching it and editing, I thought to myself, yeah, but we're going to lose the midterms. What the hell are these people talking about? The world is now coalescing behind America. The world, in essence, is coalescing behind Donald Trump. I don't know if you have followed what Starmer, I guess that's how you say his name, in England. Remember yesterday, he said, nope, United States can't use our airspace. And he got chastised and ripped apart by even his own people. Like, yeah, I guess we're going to let you use our airspace. Everybody, except the Democrats and media in America, are beginning to see the light here. The Democrats are still clinging to an old way of doing things. It's not going to work anymore. You pollsters, you black pillars, you rhinos, forget about it. What is happening right now is so much bigger than any of the other stuff that they claim. Nope, it's bigger than you guys wanting to have the wartime resolution vote, as Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna are trying to do. Too late. It's done. And unfortunately, if you haven't heard the news, we lost three servicemen or women, but 3 people. And there's another 4 or 5 that are in critical condition. That's about the extent of the knowledge, but we did lose 3 brave soldiers. And of course, some of the Democrats, instead of just taking a moment, taking a pause and saying, you know what, maybe we should just honor these servicemen who gave their, or women who gave their lives to furthering true freedom. Not the kind of freedom the Democrats want, because somehow they're against women taking off the burqas. They're against women being able to vote and vocalize themselves. That last gentleman who had the Yankees hat on, he said it so well. You know, what is this? Wait a second. Hold on. I'm not sure if this was immediate. Hold on. I might have to rewind this. Wait a second. President Trump is speaking.
When his death was announced, the entire military command is gone as well, and many of them want to surrender into saving their lives.
All right, just listening in, that was the post from President Trump here just a little bit ago on his return to Washington.
I hate when they do that. Now I got to go find the whole thing. He actually did a speech, so I'm going to have to find where that speech is on his way back to Washington. Looks like that was earlier. He's landing as of right now back in Washington, D.C.
But the night unfolds with this, some 36 hours into Operation Epic Fury. He just landed within the last hour at Joint Base Andrews aboard Air Force One, returning from Palm Beach there in Florida. And obviously all the conversation here on the Sunday surrounding the ongoing conflict there in Iran, in the Middle East. After Operation Epic Fury, Iran vowed revenge, firing missiles at Israel and the Gulf Arab states in a counteroffensive that the U.S. military said resulted in the deaths of 3 U.S. service members, the first known American casualties from the conflict. Israeli rescue services said strikes had hit several locations, including in Jerusalem, and bringing the overall death toll in that country to 11. 11 people still missing following that strike, according to authorities on the ground. The attacks on Iran show no signs of relenting as the U.S. and Israel took aim at key military, political, intelligence targets in what appeared to be a widening war that carried the potential for a prolonged conflict that would envelop the Middle East and destabilize it. The strikes represented a startling show of military might for American president who won on a, quote, America First platform and vowed to keep out of forever wars. So President Trump there touching down here on this Sunday there as we are concerns about oil prices spiking following this. Iran also threatening to shutter the Strait of Hormuz, in which is a major energy artery. Some 20% of the global supply goes through that narrow channel there between Oman and Iran. So concern over that here as well on this Sunday. President Trump also held calls with different world leaders, including there in the Middle East, as he spoke with the leaders of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, in Bahrain, and also UAE. So he was there speaking with others, and obviously conflict about what's going on in the Middle East. And we are learning that different military assets were used. The U.S. detailed the scope of the operation, said it struck different parts, including a warship that was sinking in a pier there on the Iranian port on the Gulf of Oman. You can see there President Trump now walking off of this plane, walking off this helicopter, Marine One, heading back to the White House. So we'll see if we have any comments from the president about what's going on there here on Live Now from Fox. All right, so potentially involved with other members of the cabinet. We are expecting to hear different members of the cabinet, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, to brief members of Congress about exactly what's unfolding. President Trump now getting off the plane, thanking the pilots, thanking them for their service. This, as he noted, that they will avenge the loss of 3 U.S. service members that were tragically killed during this conflict there in the Middle East. We're not sure exactly their identity or the location at this moment. But now President Trump walking off, you can see the flash bulbs in the distance on this evening hours. Let's just listen in here on Live Now. What's your message to the families of the fallen?
All right, so he's not taking any questions as he goes back into the White House, which I didn't think he would. Not in the middle of an action taking place live. If he's going to speak, he'll speak tomorrow, which that may happen, but we shall see from there. And of course, you can hear the people in the press. What do you got to say to the people who died? Nothing else. That's all they want. Just want the negativity. But in any event, what I was saying was, besides the fact that those 3 people passed on, the media doesn't want to talk about success. They never want to talk about winning. They never want to talk about the things that the people in Iran are celebrating. In fact, I don't know if I posted something earlier what the New York Times said glowingly about the Ayatollah and how he was just a good old guy and he died. No, he wasn't good too. He just didn't die. And the Washington Post said he had a nice, fluffy white beard. These people hate America. I'm not talking about the Ayatollah. I'm talking about the press. They hate America. They hate that President Trump is succeeding. And what's sad is there are people who call themselves Republican or even some who used to be MAGA who are still doing the same thing. They're all trying to complain and say they're not voting. There's an actual agenda afoot here to get people to stop voting for President Trump when you can see with your own eyes the veritable success that is happening. I'm going to talk more about that, but I want you to listen into something that President Trump said. I think it was this morning.
Over the past 36 hours, the United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen. Nobody's seen anything like it. We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Just now it was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building, all in a matter of literally minutes. Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead. This wretched and vile man had the blood of hundreds and even thousands of Americans on his hands and was responsible for the slaughter of countless thousands of innocent people all across many countries. Last night, all over Iran, the voices of the Iranian people could be heard cheering and celebrating in the streets when his death was announced. The entire military command is gone as well, and many of them want to surrender into saving their lives. They want immunity. They're calling by the thousands. Combat operations continue at this time in full force, and they will continue until all of our objectives are achieved. We have very strong objectives. They could have done something 2 weeks ago, but they just couldn't get there. Earlier today, CENTCOM shared the news that 3 U.S. military service members have been killed in action. As one nation, we grieve for the true American patriots who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation, even as we continue the righteous mission for which they gave their lives. We pray for the full recovery of the wounded and send our immense love and eternal gratitude to the families of the fallen. And sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is, likely be more, but we'll do everything possible where that won't be the case. But America will avenge their deaths and deliver the most punishing blow to the terrorists who have waged war against basically civilization. They have waged war against civilization itself. Our resolve, and likewise that of Israel, has never been stronger. America is now, again, the richest, most powerful nation in the world by far. But the only reason we enjoy the quality of life that we do and the freedom and security is we have done things that others are unable to do. But it's because of warriors who are willing to lay down their lives to do battle with our enemies, and they do battle better than anybody. An Iranian regime armed with long-range missiles and nuclear weapons would be a dire threat to every American. We cannot allow a nation that raises terrorist armies to possess such weapons that would allow them to extort the world to their evil will. Not going to let it happen. We're not happening to us, and we're not going to let it happen to others. The United States has the strongest military the world has ever seen. I rebuilt our military in my first term. There's never been a military like we possess. And frankly, there's nobody even close, but we are now using that military for good. We want to have it for good purpose. We're undertaking this massive operation not merely to ensure security for our own time and place, but for our children and their children, just as our ancestors have done for us many, many years ago. This is the duty and the burden of a free people. These actions are right, and they are necessary to ensure that Americans will never have to face a radical, bloodthirsty terrorist regime armed with nuclear weapons and lots of threats. For almost 50 years, these wicked extremists have been attacking the United States while chanting the slogan, "Death to America," or "Death to Israel," or both. They are the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. We are the world's greatest and most powerful nation, so we can do something about what they do. These intolerable threats will not continue any longer. I once again urge the Revolutionary Guard, the Iranian military, and police to lay down your arms and receive full immunity or face certain death. It will be certain death. Won't be pretty. I call upon all Iranian patriots who yearn for freedom to seize this moment, to be brave, be bold, be heroic, and take back your country. America is with you. I made a promise to you, and I fulfilled that promise. The rest will be up to you, but we'll be there to help. Thank you. God bless you to our incredible warriors, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
You know, when I heard him say that, of course, there were some really coarse words there, some words that really, hit you. Is one, yeah, there will probably be more casualties, which nobody wants to see. And number two, he's giving the Iranian military a way to survive. You're not going to be in power. That's not going to happen. The only way you survive is by basically surrendering. Wave the white flag, do what you need to do, lay down your arms, and ask for mercy. Because other than that, there won't be any mercy. And I think that needs to be said because there's so many liberals and nut jobs out there who don't want to understand the kind of messaging this guy is bringing. To them, it's toxic. Oh my gosh, how can you talk to people like that? Because that's what they listen to. They listen to power. They may hate Trump, but they respect someone who's saying, I am going to do to you what you've always said you want to do to Americans. You're dead. Sorry, that's what happens. There are no off-ramps, as people keep saying. Off-ramps? No, there's no off-ramps. Quit or die. That's it. Does that sound harsh? Sorry, you put yourselves in this position. The time to negotiate was weeks ago. You thought he was bluffing. The rest of the world are now seeing this man doesn't bluff. The media understand he doesn't bluff. And when I get back, I'm going to show you a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to continue. I want to talk about why we're in the situation we're in right now, why it's a good thing that we're in the situation we are right now. And I'm going to let you listen to Bibi Netanyahu and what may be the next president. And won't be a grand poobah. It's going to be a president of Iran. And hopefully we'll help him put a reasonable government together. But it's going to take us as well to make sure we know we support President Trump, but to let other people know we support President Trump. And here's a hard thing that you're going to have to do, maybe some of you. I heard some things over the last couple of days. Look at all those Iranians in the street. Couldn't we just round them up and send them where? I want you to really think about that, because there may be some people in the chat say, oh, we just round them up and get rid of them. Well, wouldn't they particularly qualify right now as a refugee? The ones who aren't nationalized? Because we're bombing the hell out of their country. So their safety would be of most importance. Now, the other side is that there are people who may think, well, there's sleeper cells. Well, there's that. You heard about the shooting in Austin where the guy went to a bar and shot three people. I mean, more. 3 people died, 14 people injured. That's going to happen. Just understand that right now. That is going to happen. Just be careful. Keep your eyes open. And if you're in a place where you can be armed, be armed. But they're going to retaliate like the snakes they are. They can't stand up to our military, so they're going to go after soft targets. And there's probably going to be a bunch of nuts that the Democrats are incentivizing to be nuts. So just be careful out there. We're a long ways from being, okay, it's over. No. Be vigilant. Use each other. Because as you saw last night, the bad guys are everywhere. And this guy did something really bad, and these people died just hanging out in a bar. It's crazy. All right, when we get back from this sponsor break, we'll get into something about President Trump. You ever see something in the store and think to yourself, I gotta have that. That's exactly for me. That's the kind of product I could see myself in. Well, if you're a MAGA Trump supporter, this is something you are going to want to take a look at. Check out the Trump MAGA sneakers. These sneakers are beautiful. They're awesome. Red, white, and blue. Got the accents. Red on the heel. Beautiful, beautiful sneakers. If you guys have ever wanted to make a statement, if you're ever out in the club, if you're ever just shopping, maybe at the golf course, well, they're not really golf sneakers, but you could still wear them playing golf. I would tell you to jump all over this. These sneakers are awesome. Every time I've worn them, whether it's down to a Dolphins football game, whether it's going into a restaurant, it always catches eyes. People always say, what are those? And I tell them very simply, they are the Trump gold sneakers. Now, I know some of you guys might feel this is a little bit audacious, a little bit bold, but why not be bold right now? Trust me, these aren't just shoes. These are a fashion statement. They are conversation starters. The gold shine, the red, white, and blue accents. You're literally wearing your American pride on your feet. And let me tell you, nothing shuts down a woke lecture faster than walking in with these bad boys on your feet. But here's the thing. They don't just look good. They feel good. They're comfortable. They're durable. They're lightweight. These aren't the kind of sneakers you're going to leave in the box. They're not going to sit in the back of your closet. So toss your dusty, old, worn-out shoes aside. You've been wearing holes in them. This shoe, people are going to take notice of. You're going to want to have these. The best part, the message that it sends, never surrender. Every time you put these on, it's a reminder that you stand for the flag, that you stand for the blue. Don't back down. You keep fighting for everything that you believe in. They also make a perfect gift. Everybody knows that's somebody who's a Trump supporter who's looking for something that they can wear with pride. They'll flip out when they unwrap these bad boys. So go ahead and get yourself a pair of these Trump gold never surrender sneakers. Head to themagaoffers.com/Barry. And if you go to themagaoffers.com/Barry, you can use that link for up to 15% off of your entire order today. You got to get some. Go get some Trump MAGA sneakers and start stepping. Your fans, your friends, your coworkers, some of them might not like it, but who the hell cares? Go there today. So as you watch that 5-minute speech that President Trump gave, I was wondering if any of you felt the same way I did, because I don't think you could have watched that. And I mean, especially the part where President Trump talked about using the, quote, vast resources of the United States military to clean up problems created by decades, not a couple of years, decades of our government, our former people tolerating and emboldening bad actors. These people in Iran wouldn't be where they are if it weren't for the fact that other people looked the other way, for whatever reason that was. And part of it is probably because they were in on it. But as you watched it, you had to have been thinking that none of what you've been seeing, not Venezuela, not anything with the financial stuff. We're going to be talking to Scott Turner later with my interview I did with him up in Washington, D.C. And then, of course, with Iran, none of this would be happening if things had gone differently. You know, everybody always likes to, I don't know if everybody, but if you ever seen a movie where you have to defend your life or you have to think about what if or something, they show these movies where people's lives flash before their eyes. Imagine what would have happened if President Trump won the 2020 election. I don't know how many of you have actually thought of that. What would have happened if he won the 2020 election? Well, let me rephrase that. What would have happened if in 2020 President Trump was inaugurated and was able to take office? I'm not going to say if he won. The second term would have barely mattered, and we would be right back to the establishment right now in a form of either a piece of crap Pence or Kamala, who would just be still doing the same thing. Mike Pence would have been doing the same thing basically as Kamala. Kamala would have been doing whatever her puppet masters wanted. And they just keep kicking the can down the road, and everything abroad happens the way the deep state wants it to. We'd have had, without the nonstop hoaxes and lies, hoaxes, and hoaxes, his presidency probably would have been played out like most of the other presidencies. Then they tried, as you know, to lock him up for 4 straight years. Indictment after indictment after indictment. It didn't have the desired effect. If anything, it only strengthened his resolve to go all in. And hopefully, it strengthened your resolve to go all in. And now you're finding out some people faked it. Some people were so happy that President Trump was running because they could either make money, get some likes, get some views, get their asses on TV or something, but they didn't go all in like most of you went all in. And perhaps most importantly, the number of assassination attempts only reinforced that resolve to him and to us. We were like, oh, hell no. And I just want to keep imparting on people. I saw a picture today of the bullet going past his head. You each have the knowledge, but that for a split-second turn of his head, a split second, and the bullet going like this instead of cutting his head in half. If not for that split second, he'd be dead. You see, I think we all have to accept and understand and get ourselves back to that point and understand the brutal clarity that focuses a person to do big things and do them right friggin' now. Big things. Not worried about polls, not worried about panicking, not worried about fraudsters, not worried about all that stuff. I'm here to save America. I'm ready to do big things because God spared my life. I don't get this chance again. Many of you will never get a second chance like that. And I've said it so many times. Do you guys realize everything he's gone through and what he must think in his quiet moments? If any of you have ever been sick, if any of you ever had a heart attack, if any of you ever got in a car accident, you know what it's like to sit back and go, damn. I'm not supposed to be here. And if any of that stuff has ever happened to you, it changes how you think. I remember Robin and I getting in a car accident, and I was driving, and I could see in the rear view mirror the lights coming behind me, and all I had time to say was, "Hold on." And this guy plowed into us, and car starts spinning. And as the car's spinning, I see the telephone pole coming. I'm like, "Oh shit!" And I grabbed her. She ducked, and you can imagine. We both got up and walked away. But at that point, your life changes forever. As you get older, you start feeling pain in your back, and you're like, but at least I'm alive. Many people don't get that second chance. You remember the song, He's a Nut, an absolute crazy nut at this point. But the song Live Like You Were Dying from, what the hell is his name? Tim McGraw. If you haven't heard that song, even though he's a nut, turn that song on. If you've never downloaded that song, Live Like You're Dying, take 3 or 4 minutes and listen to that song. Turn it up and listen to that song. And see if you would be willing to go 8 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu. It's a rodeo term. Because after the guy finds out he's dying, he's like, I'm going to live like I'm dying. Yeah, I don't want you to wait until you're dying to live like you're dying. Live like you're dying today. And I think that's what President Trump is doing. He's living like he was dead. He got a chance to stop and live again and ride a bull named Fu Manchu, and he's riding the hell out of it. Are you? And I ask that question because some of you guys may say, "Oh, I haven't had the near-death experience." Oh, yeah, you did. That's just it. You had, and were close to, a near-death experience of your country. And I wonder how many people sit back and go, what if? What if? You've seen movies and everything where people do those things. What if? What if Kamala was president? What if Mike Pence was president? What if Bernie was president? And then you would think to yourself, if you put yourself back on July 14th, the day after he was at the assassination attempt, and think, man, I need to get my ass on Fu Manchu and ride it like I never rid nothing in my life. I'm going to do all 8 seconds. I'm going to go skydiving. I'm going to do everything I can to live the life the fullest, because it can get taken away in an instant. And you saw President Trump, and he said, fight, fight, fight. And I'm just wondering, what happened? How did we lose the fight again? We all know what we felt on September 11th. We all know what we felt on September 12th. We were ready to run through walls, and they took it from us. And an entire generation of kids have grown up to be nuts who have no idea what September 11th was. They have no idea how we all felt on September 12th. And so I'm going to ask you, how did you feel? I'm pretty sure most of you are old enough. How did you feel on September 12th? You were probably trying to find whatever red, white, and blue shirt you could find. You were trying to find a red, white, and blue hat. And you're like, oh, hell no, we're not going out like that. And then it died. We'll never forget. New York forgot. Or did New York, the people who vote now, never get told what happened on September 12th? If people don't know their history, and you know the cliche that goes along with that. And here we go, July 13th. Pow. We get lucky. How did you feel on July 14th? Oh, we're going to do this. And now it's like the bull Fu Manchu's turned into leather, and nobody can remember July 14th, and nobody can remember September 12th. And now we have a chance again. And that chance is here because he didn't get elected, or rather, he didn't get inaugurated after the 2020 election. So now I'm going to ask you, even though, no doubt, you hated completely what happened on September 11th. There's no disguising. We all hated it. We all hated seeing him get shot. We all hated seeing Charlie Kirk get shot. We remember clearly where we were when it happened. Most of you were probably watching my show. But did you think at that time that maybe those things were necessary? As you look back in hindsight, you're like, you know what? Yeah, was that necessary? Because trust me, if he had been elected, inaugurated in 2020, things would be right back to where they were. They were going to stifle him. And I feel at this point, President Trump has put on his chaps and he's riding that Fu Manchu like nobody's business. And we should be not in the stands. We should be out there trying to get on our own bull. And we're seeing the payoff right now, the result of all that fire with Trump reshaping the world in ways that could have never been expected. And I truly feel that after watching the last couple of days, and I'm like, man, you need to get fired up, talking to myself, look myself in the mirror, like you need to get on that bull. You need to let Fu Manchu know who's in charge here. You need to go skydiving. You need to do everything that you would possibly do if you knew you were dying. That's the charge I think I have to give you tonight. Because there are people who are dying, there are people who are putting themselves in, harm's way for us around the world. And all we can do is tweet and post on Facebook and bullshit to everybody instead of saying, I'm going to live like I was dying. No more pontifications. Let's do this. Just watched the American hockey teams, both of them. Didn't know the girls were whacked until afterwards, but I was cheering up my ass off for them. I was so happy the girls won. I was so happy the boys won. I was cheering America again. Just like when I watched 1980 in the Miracle on Ice. I couldn't believe it. And so quickly, what you have to recognize is the Democrats tried to dampen that spirit effing immediately. They want to stamp it out like it's a cold. They just want to eradicate. They just want to pee all over your good feelings. I'm like, man, they just won the gold medal. Why are you pissing on us? Because we let them. We let them. And as I'm telling you these things, you're probably thinking to yourself, yeah, I felt pretty good when the girls won. Well, I felt really good when the guys won. I wanted to celebrate, and then I go online and it's like, what is this? What is this cesspool? And now we have a country being liberated. I want you to see something. I posted this as my thumbnail, as many of you know, and I put let freedom reign, REIGN. And somebody texted me and said, didn't you mean let freedom ring? No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I meant let freedom reign. You see, if you look up the difference between those phrases, one is a celebratory. Let it ring. Tell everybody, exalt that you have freedom. Reign means you're making it a part of your life. You've changed my life. Let freedom reign. I am a free person. You can't let it ring without having to reign. And I think that's where we are right now, because we should be taking incentive. We should be taking direction from what we're seeing right now happening in Iran. Many of you, including myself, have never felt the oppression of a government that makes you do things just completely crazy. Even though we think we're bad, freedom of speech, this and that. Just think of what these people have lived in. Luckily, I've had the opportunity to talk to people from Cuba. And I'm like, what? Oh, nope, can't do it. Nope, can't do that either. We're lucky, but we take it for granted. We act like it's going to be there forever. And it's fleeting. It is so close to being taken away from us. How close? A millimeter. 2 millimeters, whatever it was. That's how close we are. The devil, and the antisocial, anti-American bunch of people are just right there waiting for their opportunity. How do we take this down? What do we need to do? Because the sooner that they think that they can take this stuff down, and if they ever get in charge, they're gonna go for it. And so right now, as you're watching freedom and you're seeing people, you're like, is it really that bad? Oh yeah, they just hang people because you said something about the government. Oh, you let your hair. We're going to have to beat you with a stick now. Oh, somebody saw your toes. We're going to beat you with a stick. Find your proverbial bull and get on that bull and get ready to ride for 8 seconds. Because Trump's doing that for us. He is showing you. You see what we got here? Are you grateful? You see these people truly spontaneously running through the street? Just happy that one leader is gone and we could possibly be taking off these burqas? The freedoms you hold dear are not permanent. Forget the Constitution, forget the Bill of Rights, because they will shred them. So get your bull. Get on that bull. Sorry I was a little bit long-winded there, but that was just something I had to say after seeing what he wrote. I mean, what he said in that speech, because I'm like, I think people are taken for granted, and we're seeing people run up and down the street, going through Iran, acting like they just got on that bull, and we don't even go into the rodeo. Get on the bull, people. Get on it.
הנחיות להמשך המערכה. אתמול חיסלנו את הרודן חמינאי, יחד איתו חיסלנו עשרות מבכירי משטר הדיכוי. כוחותינו עולמים עכשיו בלב טהרן בעוצמות הולכות וגוברות, וזה רק ילך ויתגבר עוד יותר במהלך הימים הקרובים. ועם זאת, אלה ימים כואבים. אתמול כאן בתל אביב, ועכשיו בבית שמש, איבדנו אנשים יקרים. ליבי יוצא למשפחות, ואני שולח בשם כולכם אזרחי ישראל איחולי החלמה לפצועים. אנחנו במערכה שבה אנחנו מביאים את כל כוחו של צה"ל, כפי שלא היה מעולם, למערכה הזאת, כדי להבטיח את קיומנו ועתידנו. אבל אנחנו מביאים למערכה הזאת גם את סיועה של ארצות הברית, את ידידי נשיא ארצות הברית דונלד טראמפ, את צבא ארצות הברית, ושילוב הכוחות הזה מאפשר לנו לעשות את מה שאני מייחל לעשות כבר 40 שנה. להכות את משטר הטרור שוק על ירך. כך הבטחתי.
I don't speak Yiddish, Jewish. Maybe you don't speak it. That's why I had to leave the subtitles. But what was interesting, and the one thing that caught me, Bibi Netanyahu, and I know there's people who don't like Bibi and Israel and call us Zionists and everything else. There was one thing he said in there that should have just made everybody just sit up. When the leader of this country said, I have waited 40 years for this. I don't know if you saw it. I don't know if you looked away, but I've been waiting 40 years. How long have you ever waited for something? Have you waited 40 years for anything? And imagine I've waited 40 years just for the possibility that people won't be trying to kill everybody I know. See, you go out, you go to the store, we go to restaurants, we go to libraries, we go to the mall, and there might be some crazy guy out there, and we may run into them, but imagine if your life was, they're always there. They're always trying to kill you. You flip the script. Flip the script. Sometimes we go out and something bad happens. They go out wondering. The bad guys are there just waiting for the opportunity. And I'll take that a step back and say, 40 years? 40 years you're wondering, are they going to launch something? Have you ever talked to anybody in Israel? Have you ever talked to somebody and found out what life is like? Oh, they got to get underground. We take what's happening here for granted. We don't have, like, on a weekly basis, somebody just starting to lob missiles over here. We go to the hairdresser, we go to the mall, we go to the gym, we go to restaurants, and we don't even think about life that way. And that man just said for 40 years, this is how we've had to live. And so when I hear people who are anti-Israel and all that crap, I say, shut up, because you haven't walked in these people's shoes. It's easy for you to sit back and say Jew this and Jew that and everything else because you haven't had to live that way. It tires me that people walk around with these things and just say the most vile stuff and sit behind a keyboard, you effing. Have you guys ever been to Europe? When Robin and I went to, what was our last trip? Rome. And, you go here, back in the day, you could get on a subway or train and go wherever you want, and you don't feel like something could be happening. And I remember, I've said this before, we get there, and the first thing I see is military with submachine guns in the subway. I'm like, what kind of problems you guys got here? None now. Oh. But you needed to have guys with submachine guns? It was that bad? Has your life ever been that bad where you had to go someplace under a military guard? It becomes a part of their way of life. Everywhere you go, in the restaurants, in the park, all you see is the policia. I think that's how you say it. We're taking life for granted here, and they want us to. They want us to believe that, no, everything's going to be fine until it's not. So you've heard from President Trump, you heard Bibi. This is, I believe, if I got my cuts correctly, this is hopefully the new leader of Iran.
Maria, there's no question that this is the game changer we've been waiting for all this time. The jubilation of Iranians at home and abroad shows how much people were hoping for this moment. And I join millions of Iranians thanking President Trump for taking this into action and delivering on his promise. We are so elated of the fact that now we have the beginning of the very end of the regime, because at least we are going to see more and more decimation of this regime, which can only equal the playing field so that the Iranian people could come back to the streets and claim their country back from this hated regime.
And that is exactly what President Trump has been telling and messaging to the Iranian people: take back your country. How can they do that, sir?
Well, Maria, this is time now for a very strong, stable transition. I am leading this transition. I have the support of millions of Iranian people. I have the people inside the country that are joining and broadening the coalition of forces that will be at play in filling the boxes. The military will side with us, and we have a plan of action and a transition plan. As a matter of fact, I'm glad to hear what Senator Fetterman was saying. It's music to my ears. I always thought that it should be a bipartisan issue when it comes to America's national security interests as well as business opportunities in the future, because we as Iranians look at America as our best partner in reconstructing ourselves. The president says MAGA, we say MAGA, make Iran great again. And in that sense, I think that a different Iran that now will be at peace with the region, work with our neighbors, will bring an element of stability, will be good for American national security, but most importantly, an opportunity to be successful in terms of economic growth and what have you, just by a change that we hope to bring to the table. That will be probably over $1 trillion worth of impact and revenue to the American economy. Just
stop right there. Stop right there. $1 trillion to the American economy. You're seeing what this is, what's happening here. We've all seen the renderings of MAGA Gaza and what we're talking about, and the way peace can proliferate and how it can become more of what people want versus this kind of craziness in Iran is because prosperity isn't unique to the United States. But if you notice all these types of other countries, I'll leave it at that, They're all broke. And the Democrats cheer that way of life. Cuba, broke. Venezuela, broke ass. Iran, they got money, but not the people. They're selling oil to China and whoever else, Russia, and the Ayatollah Assad. Well, not anymore. They live in the big castles, and these people live in dirt. The quickest way to change ideology is prosperity, which is why the Democrats don't want it. Because once you taste it, you want more of it. And they've done a great job of stifling it here. They've overtaxed the entire country to the point where so many people don't think they can make it. So I want to change that perspective. When you're looking at Venezuela, when you're looking at Cuba, and you're looking at Iran and what he wants to do, it's not tax-based. They are starting from a position of knowing what President Trump is saying. It's like, you got money. We're going to help you make a whole bunch of money. You don't need to have no po people here. You don't need to have a ghetto. You've got it. You've got oil. And if you sell that oil, you're going to make a crap load of money. And if you're the right kind of leader, everybody prospers, which is what we should be doing in America. I don't think a lot of people realize the big fight that we have here is that they're fighting you from having prosperity. And they've taught a whole bunch of people that capitalism is bad. They've taught a whole lot of good people that having wealth and money is bad. Imagine if you were starting America fresh, like you just toppled the government, and you said, we got all these resources. We got fish, we got oil, we got all this stuff. So what we're going to do is start doing business with other countries. And we're going to make sure you and you and you and you can do whatever you need to do. We're going to make sure you get high-paying jobs, and you won't have to pay the government. That's what they're going to be able to do in these countries. They're like, hey, listen, you living in dirt? You living in war-torn, shelters? We're going to build up MAGA Gaza. Everybody's going to have a skytop condo. Everybody's going to live well. All 90 million of you. There's no reason for you to be poor. Those guys were making you poor. And we're going to help America because we're going to send America $1 trillion a year. Let that sink in. President Trump and how they're stacking things and how they're putting these wins together, it's not just Venezuela. It will be Iran. What do you think is going to happen to Cuba? I can tell you right now, because we're right here, just 90 miles away, that Cuba, the way it was basically the Las Vegas of the East. People hung out down there. There's hotels. They were vacationing, beautiful beaches, great food. People from around the world vacationing in Cuba, money flowing. And then it just got turned off. Exactly like they want to do here. You see, there is no Democrat Party with prosperity flowing. And so any one of you who thinks that wealth is beyond your realm or wealth isn't something that you're supposed to have, number one, you'd have to define what wealth is for you. And number two, stop thinking that everybody who's making money or looking to make money is either, quote, grifting or, they're anti-biblical because they have the love of money. I don't know many people who love money. I love my daughter. I love my wife. I love my dogs. I love being able to experience life on my terms. I love being able to say, you know what, the kids are coming down for spring break. Let's go ahead and lease out this giant house where, all the kids and they can bring some of their friends down. That's not the love of money. It's the love of my family. Say, hey, Robin, we're going to go over to the beach and we're going to get this giant house so all the kids can have fun and have the best spring break ever. It's not the love of money. It's the love of my grandkids. Too many people who are, older have been just been browbeat them. I don't need it. I don't. How do you know? And that's that exact same question is what they're going to be doing over there. Oh, should we have this? Because they don't know. They have no idea what it's like. And so this prosperity, if you get the nuts out the way, causes freedom. You'll see it happen in Cuba when it happens. That's next. And you'll see it very quickly. Cuba probably will rebound faster than any of the other countries because there's people here right now with money who've got lives and have property, and they'll go right back and have dual citizenship, and they'll just build and restaurants and plumbers and doctors and everything. They can't wait. With it only being 90 miles away, you can say, I'll be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in Miami, and I'll be Thursday, Friday in Cuba. I could take a ferry. I could take a quick plane ride, anything. It's going to be massive. And it's all based around capitalism.
By Iran's market being open to America and how much we stand to benefit from billions of dollars willing to be invested into Iran. All that was needed was for this regime to no longer be there. And I think that is something that should be important to America and Iran both.
So where does this transition leave the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, where leadership there is still vowing revenge? How does this transitional government look when you have Persians, Shia, Sunni, secular government? What do you envision?
Well, Maria, obviously, I think this campaign is this time something not just to set back the Iranian nuclear program or anything like that. This is like full decapitation of the regime, and ultimately what will expedite its total collapse. The Iranian people has suffered too much to settle for anything less than that. But as soon as the transition plan is put into gear, we want to make sure that we address the issue immediately, to make sure that we have the ability to have a stable process, to obviously lead to ultimately a democratic outcome so the Iranian people get to choose their future government and system. What we need to do now is to make sure that we bring all the elements that can help that process into place. I was talking earlier today with Senator Lindsey Graham, who is a good friend of Iran. In fact, people now call him lovingly Uncle Lindsey for his position. And he talked to me earlier saying that he would try to organize a bipartisan group at Senate level for us to present that plan. Both the administration and Congress will understand better what we have in mind, and we'll get more into the details. You and I had talked about the IPP project, Iran Prosperity Project, before. And
what did he just say? The IPP? If you don't listen to these people quickly, we talked about the IPP. What's the IPP? Oh, the Iran Prosperity Project. Oh, so you already have a plan to make everybody prosperous. I have heard the word prosperity more in the last 13 or 14 months in this country than I've heard in decades. It comes out he wasn't IPP, the Iran Prosperity Project. Wait, hold on a second, bro. These people are eating dirt, and you're already talking about the IPP. Until people understand and get comfortable with prosperity, you don't know how it feels, and you don't know how to go after it. This country doesn't have the IPP. Well, it kind of does. You have to find the different programs out there that can help you become, the APP, the American Prosperity Project. And until people here embrace prosperity instead of holding a handout, we're going to continue to have these nuts trying to tear us apart, the Democrats. All it's going to take is for people to say, I don't want you. I don't want you giving me anything. I don't even want your Social Security. How about you just write me a check for everything I paid in? I'll take care of the rest myself. Can you imagine right now if whatever age you are, somebody said, you know what, we're just going to cut you a check for everything you've paid in, one lump sum. Why are you going to give me this little bit until I die? Why are we doing that? Why are we not saying, hey, at 65, here's all your money? Why are we not banging the drum saying, hell no, I don't want installment plans. I don't want a little bit a month. I don't want you having that as a campaign thing. We're going to make sure we protect Social Security. I don't want you to protect Social Security. I want Social Security to go away. I don't even want to hear that anymore. What I want, give people the money they're due. And many of you are thinking, what would I do? What would you do? I don't even know how much you paid in. I don't know if you know how much you paid in. You get the little statement that says, hey, we're going to pay you, $1,000 or $1,200 or $1,500 a month for the rest of your life. Here you go. And you retire and you're like, now I'm going to have to move into some small little apartment because this is all I can afford. Now imagine you had the APP, the American Prosperity Project, and said, hey, Fred, you've been working for 30 years. Your check is going to be, 90 grand. So what's Fred going to say? No, I don't want to be prosperous. No, I don't want it. Maybe it might be better that Fred doesn't get the 90 grand all at once. You know why? Maybe Fred hasn't been taught different prosperity strategies. Fred doesn't know what he would do if he got 90,000 in one lump sum. Like, do I just stick it in a bank? No. What do I do with 90,000? How many of you right now could answer if you had a $90,000 check from the government? I'm not talking a stimmy. I'm talking your own money. Here's $90,000. What do you do tomorrow? Monday is tomorrow. Bank's open. What do you do with that $90,000? That's one of our problems here. That's why the Trump accounts are so good. When these kids turn a certain age and they're sitting on $1 million, hopefully the parents have said, hey, listen, when you turn 18, 19, 20, whatever, here's what you need to do. Here's how we're going to set you up. See, a lot of people aren't prepared for a lump sum like that because they haven't had the American Prosperity Project.
The first 100 days, critically important of how we do that for the initial transition. I've been working with a number of Iranians from across the spectrum that are united on this purpose. We have the most diverse coalition of people dedicated to that process, representing different parts of the country, including religious minorities, ethnic groups that are all aligned in this national project that we have. So I feel extremely confident that we get this into place and make sure that we can fill the vacuum, and that unlike other scenarios that did not pan out so well, example, post-Saddam Hussein de-Baathification, the Iranian scenario is very different than that. It's different than Venezuela. We do have an absolutely ironclad plan in mind. Of course, what's critical is the more this regime is totally weakened and it collapses, whatever remains behind is now part of the solution and are incorporated into our transition, in the civilian bureaucracy as well as the military and security forces.
Okay, we will be watching all of that. And how long would you expect your transitional leadership to be?
Well, Maria, I think that to be realistic, from the time that we start until the day we can have the final referendum, I anticipate a period that should not be longer than a couple of years at the most. But what's critical is the first 100 days to immediately stabilize the country, the Iranian economic situation, that the apparatus of governments remain as intact as possible, so the functioning of the country continues to be in place while we bring all the components that makes us bring the country to a position where we come out of it at the very end with the choice that people will have to make, and will be proposed various plans in the Constitutional Assembly, which is the entity that will, of course, debate all these issues.
Well, that would be an incredible day to see a free election in Iran once again. Reza Pahlavi, thank you, sir. We will be watching your work.
So when you hear that kind of stuff and At the same time, you've got so many idiots in this country lying their asses off. Oh, there's no plan. There's no plan when this is. Of course, there's plans. They just don't want you to think that there's a plan. This guy just gave you a 3-year plan. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to do the bing, bada boom. Here we have a plan. But the United States media keeps posing these things like they don't even know what they're going to do next because they want you off your game. It's funny, as I was looking around, Dan Turrentine, who is he I don't know if he's going to continue to be, but he was a big donor to the Democrat Party, and he's on the All In podcast. He said this: some Democrats, elected and the media personalities this weekend, are unhinged. Nobody wants to be associated with unhinged people. Every situation is not zero sum. Trump versus us. Nope, it's not that. Sometimes it's just America. I don't know what will happen and have legit questions and concerns, but some appear to be rooting for failure. Voters will tune us out when knee-jerk crazy. Take a deep breath, think calmly and analytically, and ground everything always in American success and that of our ally Israel, and now for the people of Iran. That is a stable-minded Democrat, not a crazy libtard. Like, hey man, we can't be crazy. President Trump labeled us. He pointed out, they're all crazy. They can't even root for America. That's how you know they don't have your best interest at heart. Not at all. And it's funny when I see people on X have a better grasp of what's going to be happening than people in the media. Saw this. I said, I don't know if this is true or 100% accurate, but just from reading, I've come up with what I think the Trump plan is for Iran. Full decapitation, take out, the Ayatollah guards. 2, bomb their army, their navy, their terror elements and regime back to the Stone Age in week 1. 3, repeat step 2 for additional weeks just to be sure. 4, tell the people to go out in the streets and deal with anyone of the regime left. Take care of business. 5, bring the crown prince, that's who you just saw, back to the country. 6, let Iranians figure it out. 7, move on and go down to Cuba. Next. And just keep going. And people in this country are pissed off, or libs in this country are pissed off because they can now see, 1, what he wants to do. 2, they can't stop him. On Tuesday morning, I don't know if they're going to televise it, but Pete Hegseth, John Radcliffe, Marco Rubio, Tulsi Gabbard, I think that's basically the brain trust is going to be testifying in front of Congress. And watch what happens. If it's televised, watch what happens. It'll turn into a complete dog and pony show on the left. They will be screaming, bloody murder, you didn't have permission, what makes you think? Instead of saying, good job, guys. You did well. You're helping to free an oppressed people. I thought the Democrats were the ones who were for helping oppressed people. Kind of odd. Saw this. Just got off the phone with some folks in Tehran. That's in Iran. They told me, you have no idea how much we danced and celebrated last night. The streets are packed with people jumping up and down in jubilation until dawn. They said, quote, don't worry about us. We are fine. Americans and Israelis are careful, surgical with their targets. This is how hope takes root. Not in silence, not in fear, but with defiance in streets that refuse to stay quiet. You know what else that does? It stops terrorism. You see, these kids who've been reading books about the great Satan and the little great Satan and the blue-eyed devils and have been indoctrinated, they're watching their mothers and fathers dancing in the street. They're seeing mom with her hair down, like, oh my God, what the hell is this? It's called freedom. And if you're not too far indoctrinated, son, daughter, you're going to enjoy it as well. But on the other side, you just have Democrats complaining. clandestine who I like a lot. I can't really prove it, but I think all the Israel derangement syndrome, IDS, we've seen over the past few years has been a coordinated psyop to preemptively damage support for Israel and the United States because the enemy knew this day would come. I'm going to stop there for a second. There is so much Jew hate. And you have to wonder, if you're not part of the Middle East battle, why do so many people here hate Jews? You don't really have that much interaction with Jewish people. So that had to have been something that was manifested because of one thing or another, correct? And so I think he's absolutely correct, because the enemy knew this day would come. We've all, those of us who read the Bible and understand, we know that they were a persecuted people, but I never understood, why do people who don't know anything about it, why are they pissed off with Jews? Why do they hate Jews so much? Muslims flew into a building. Some people did something. I don't hate them all. I hate the ones that do bad things. I want us to make sure the bad things don't happen, but I don't take the entirety of a population. What caused people who had no interaction with the Jews or the Jewish government to hate Jews? And if they had to look in the mirror, in this instance a camera, and go, okay, why do I hate Jews? You had to hear it from somebody. Sort of like racism. You see the videos where little black boys and little white boys have fun and they're playing. I'm like, well, how could it be racism? Oh, that's because they don't know yet. They don't know you're a stinky black guy and you shouldn't be let that monkey play with my kid. The kids don't know that. They had to be taught. And so when he says this, it made me think. The deep state knew Trump and Israel planned to wipe out Khomeini. That's where he's wrong. It wasn't the deep state knew that Trump and Israel planned to wipe out Khomeini. They knew somebody eventually would see clearly. They knew it would be somebody would say, what are you talking about? They didn't know it was Trump. They've been building this animosity for decades. And they knew if they kept that subjugated, they could keep the Middle East in turmoil. And their proxies in the Middle East. So they targeted Trump supporters with massive amounts of bots and propaganda, which was designed to condition them to hate Israel and hate Trump. The Israel obsession was a trap, and it worked on many. It certainly did. We get them in here all the time. SVs are bopping, playing whack-a-mole with the trolls. Oh, you Zion. You know what's really funny? I'm 65. I remember somebody called me a Zionist. Robin, what does that mean? It means you like people from Israel. But I don't. I don't know anybody from Israel. I know people that I interact with. I know the guys at the jewelry store. I know the guys at the golf course. I know. What are you talking about? You're a Zionist. Has anyone called you that? Or have you called someone else that? The same people who say you're a Zionist would never say you're an N-word. But it's the exact same thing. Why do you hate them? Because they're from another country. Because the PSYOP has been so well trained that they've gotten people on. And it's just been something that's crazy. And some of you may disagree. That's fine. But I can't hate an entire religion. It's not in me. Especially if I don't know you, if you've never done anything to me. Well, Barry, it's Hollywood. Well, I used to work with entertainers. I didn't have any problem with that. Yeah, they own the radio stations, but, the black people own Kentucky Fried Chicken, and the Indians own 7-Eleven. What? Stop. Or not. That's up to you. All right, I'll be I'll be right back, and we'll continue. I think we can all agree that lately everything going on in the world, and specifically our country, just feels crazy. It feels crazy a lot, almost all the time. And everyone wants you to be pulled into the noise instead of the signal. It's important to stay grounded and focus on things that help counter that craziness. And I have something simple and meaningful that does exactly that. It's the sterling silver cross necklace, and on its box are the words that have guided our country for generations. In God we trust. For me personally, pieces like this are a quiet reminder to slow down, not to overreact, to respond with patience instead of frustration, to choose faith over fear, and to remember that real strength comes from trusting His plan, not forcing the outcomes. A lot of us feel it right now. Pretty much you probably feel it today. A pull back to our core values: faith, country, family. The same values many Americans rally around when they feel the nation drifting, and the same reason so many still stand firmly in support of President Trump today. But this isn't about shouting politics or making a spectacle. It's not about yard signs or slogans. It's about keeping your faith strong, especially when the world feels like it's getting crazier by the day. Because at the end of the day, there can only be one side worth standing on, and that's God's side. Sometimes smaller symbols carry the greatest weight. If this resonates with you, I put the link below in the description, and if you can afford it, go for it. The link is themagaoffers.com/Barry Cross. You'll get 50% off your sterling silver cross using that link. And it's a meaningful piece you can wear daily or give to someone who'd appreciate the reminder. Again, the link is themagaoffers.com/Barry Cross for 50% off while supplies last. Or if you'd prefer, you can call in to explore even more deals at 855-550-6242 with the promo code Barry Cross.
I think that it is imperative the Democratic Party wake up and get past their dislike of Donald Trump, the President Trump, and their feelings of international conflicts going on. This is about national security. This is about what is possible in the Middle East. This is about being a good neighbor, good partner to the Gulf states and what their aspirations are. This is about supporting the people of Venezuela. This is about dismembering our relationship with, or not dismembering, but resetting our relationship with China. Right now, 55% of the oil production that Iran produces goes to China despite sanctions. You want to support the people of Ukraine. You want to end that war. You have to. There is no getting around dismembering this Islamic Republic. It is non-negotiable. It is not a want to have. It is a have to have. And it's not just for the Iranian people. I think you have to trust the Iranian people. We know this government better than anyone else. When you dismember and decapitate this regime, you are going to see a change in the Middle East, in Venezuela, in China, in Ukraine. And I think, quite frankly, their ideology has it's caused a lot of problems for us worldwide. We need to take it seriously. And I think at this point, we have a tremendous opportunity. This will be like ending the Soviet Union, the Berlin Wall. This is a transformational moment for humankind, for security. And as an American, this is in our interest to complete it. So I am a Democrat. I have been a huge Democrat. I am incredibly disappointed with my party. I do not see myself in them in this moment.
Moj and Masi.
How many Democrats are feeling that right now? I don't know this party. I don't recognize where we are. The amount of complete ineptitude. You can't get anything done. You hate everything, and it's merely the strategy is anything Trump says, go the other way. Doesn't matter if it's viable. Doesn't matter if it's good. It doesn't matter. And now you're beginning to see on something regarding oppression that Democrats, not liberals, not libnuts, Democrats are like, I'm not down with you. I can't be with you people at this point. It's way too much. Again, Dan Turrentine had posted this. It's my understanding from people in Iran that Israel has taken over the airwaves and is broadcasting on TV and radio what a new government would do for the people. The vice is tightening. So it's going to be very fluid. President Trump says it may take a couple weeks, whatever it's going to be, to make sure all this happens. But you're going to see, and you can begin speaking to Democrats who can't stand what the left is doing right now. But we're supposed to be thinking we're going to lose the midterms. How is it possible? From everything you've seen and what you continue to see. This woman who lives in, I think she lives in Iran. Let me see where she's from right now. Doesn't say, but she has been posting up a storm. Israeli Channel 12, warning to the people of Iran, do not take the streets for now. First, the regime must be completely weakened and the leaders of the Islamic Republic fully removed. In the coming days, you'll receive the signal to enter the streets. The signal to enter the streets. So I want to spend a little bit of time going over some of that stuff with you. Let me see what I had next here so this thing flows correctly. All right, so this is Marco Rubio talking about what comes next.
Where no one can see it and inspectors can only come when they say they can come. If that's what they want, then they're going to have big problems because this is a dangerous, violent, radical regime. Not the Iranian people. We have no problem. We didn't hit Iranian people last night. We hit nuclear facilities. And if what they want is some secret program that looks nothing like the civil nuclear programs around the world, it looks a lot like you're trying to build a bomb, they're going to continue to have problems, not just with us, but with many other countries in the world.
Problems like what? What do you mean?
Like the problems they're facing right now. Listen, why do we have bases in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and Qatar and UAE? All of those bases are there to help protect those countries from Iran. Why did Hezbollah exist? Because of Iran. What does Hamas exist? Because of Iran. How do the Houthis exist? Because of Iran. Who built the IEDs that maimed and killed American soldiers in Iraq? Iran. They're behind every problem in this region. They are the sole source of instability in the entire Middle East, and the world's been paying a price for this for 40-something years. Imagine those people having a nuclear weapon, just one nuclear weapon, or even the capability to being on the threshold of having a nuclear weapon. That's what the world was facing. That is unacceptable. President Trump did the world a favor last night, and now Iran should sort of wake up, the Iranian regime should wake up and say, okay, if we really want nuclear energy in our country, there's a way to do it. That offer's still there. We're prepared to talk to them tomorrow and start working on that. Steve Witkoff has traveled extensively around the world trying to reach that deal with them, but they play too many games. They play way too many games, and now they found out.
Learning new updates. I like how he said that. Wanted to share this with you in regards to them playing too many games. It appears at this point that the Iranians want to negotiate, but they don't negotiate the right way. And unfortunately for them, they're negotiating with savvy negotiators. I said that the word negotiate there like 5 times. And so they understand what you're going to do. And now the worst part about it is it's very hard to negotiate when you don't have any cards. Now, SV beat the heck out of me this past weekend playing poker. But I did win a few pots from some other people, but you can only play when you have the cards. If you're looking at a pair like a 2-4, it's very hard to play. You don't have anything, and you're going to get stomped on. Well, right now, the Israelis don't have anything to negotiate with. For instance, we're selling that house, our investment property, and there's a negotiation. We want to do this, we want to do that, I want this, and you negotiate. But if you don't have anything I want, and President Trump has confirmed that, you either surrender or die. That's it. There's nothing to negotiate. They could have, like Marco said, you could have said, no, we're going to just do centrifuges and work with this for power. Nope, too late. Too late. And that's where we are right now. Now, I had heard some things, and I was trying to look for the tweet. Yesterday, I showed you what President Trump said when he said that they were able to take these people out because of great intelligence and highly sophisticated tracking. Well, there's a story going around, And I met with some people today who they heard it from their sources as well. You remember the whole thing with the beepers? When a bunch of bad guys wanted beepers and they found out that they were going to be buying new beepers, and they put some kind of chips in them, and all of a sudden they started blowing up. Well, here I don't have anything to show you, so I'm just going to have to tell you. Here is the story. The story is that this has been in the works with Israel, and that the Ayatollah and some of his boys needed medical work over the years. They went to dentists, they went to gastrologists and things of that nature, and they were having fillings put in and different things in their stomachs. And well, just like with the beepers, the rumor is, and I don't know if we're ever going to get it confirmed, the rumor, which is becoming more validated, is that when they put the fillings in these people's teeth, there were transmitters in there. And they over a course of years, because everything you know in the Middle East, these people take time. They're willing to wait and wait and wait and wait. And the story is that they had some sort of tracking device inside their fillings, so they knew where they were going, and it made it easier to find out, hey, they're in the bunker, they're going to be down here today. And I thought that was very interesting. I got no proof of it. It's just been talked about. But no, not explosive fillings, just a tracker, some sort of device inside the fillings that just put out a signal so they know if you had a filling, they knew where Barry was. And I'm thinking, AI. Don't know, but we shall see. Let's continue.
It's this morning on the historic mission executed by the U.S. and Israel in Iran. Senior U.S. defense officials tell Fox News that 4 B-2 bombers dropped dozens of 2,000-pound penetrator bombs on Iranian ballistic missile facilities underground.
The jets flew out of Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, and that's the same base used in the Fordow attack last summer. It was an 18-hour trip one way. The jets refueled along the way, and the B-2s have returned to the U.S.
Plus, we are now getting...
Now understand, here we go again, that these secret jets flew from Missouri all the way halfway around the world to Iran, and nobody knew. You didn't hear it in the news. You didn't hear it on X, nobody on Facebook. Nobody knew we had activate the stealth bombers yet once again. And President Trump has said over and over, you're never going to know we're coming. And they just did it again to the same country, twice. The country who already had it done to them couldn't respond and make ready for what happened to them a couple days ago. Which means there are other countries around who probably would never see it coming. Cuba. But we wouldn't need it for Cuba. I mean, it's right there. All the way across the world, and nobody picked up on it. And 2,000 bombs.
Our first update from CENTCOM this morning. U.S. forces say they have struck an Iranian ship in the Gulf of Oman, and the ship is currently sinking to the bottom of the ocean. CENTCOM adding, quote, as the president said, members of Iran's armed forces, IRGC, and police must lay down your weapons. Abandoned ship. We'll continue to bring the latest on this as we learn more. That's pretty significant.
So I've done this before, and I'm gonna show you guys something that this is some crazy stuff. And I said, when should I explain it? Should I explain it beforehand or after? And so I'm gonna explain it to you beforehand. What I'm gonna show you is made by a group or a guy or somebody, and they go by the name handle AI Telly. And he makes extremely good videos explaining what happens in the missions. It's pretty much anonymous, but he does it. But in this instance, I'm like, how would he know? So before I show you, let me just show you this. I looked it up. And it says, from Grok, take it whatever you want there, the animated video analysis is largely correct. It correctly shows the coordinated U.S.-Israel Operation Epic Fury on February 28th. Carriers including Ford, B-2s, F-35s, F-15, Tomahawks, Cyber to build S-300, 400 defenses, simultaneous strikes on Tehran, missile nuclear sites, and leadership targets. Matches CENTCOM, Reuters, CSIS reports. Dramatic flare aside, the tactics and assets align with confirmed events. So, I don't know if you have seen this, but I'm going to show this to you. And I was like, this is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. So you're going to see a AI-based recap of what happened that night. And it's simply amazing. Now, as you're watching this, I liked how they went to silence because it just...
How did the U.S. and Israel launch a preemptive...
It's pretty much to accentuate the stealth bomber that people can't see or hear it. And, you know, that thing that looks like a spaceship, it came from outer space. It's pretty crazy. But just watch this. It's pretty incredible.
Strike against Iran. Well, they use a devastating tactic called time on target. With 2 aircraft carriers and a fleet of destroyers, they calculated the exact math so Israeli jets and U.S. cruise missiles hit their marks at the exact same second. Israel's main goal is assassinating Khamenei and the top leadership, while the U.S. pounded military targets and other high-value industry. But why did Iranian air defenses fail to activate? Because the U.S. fights with a different kind of technology using electronic warfare from space, sea, and air. They completely blinded the Iranian radar just as destroyers launched a swarm of cruise missiles to wipe out the anti-air systems. But wait, the war is still not over. Iran still has thousands of ballistic missiles and drones, so they hit American and Middle East allied bases, and right now, almost everyone is an open target. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched a major coordinated military offensive against Iran. Israeli officials have called their offensive operation Roar the Lion, while the U.S. operation has been referred to as Operation Epic Fury. The message behind the Israel and U.S. strike was clear. This wasn't just a show of force. This was a targeted move to assassinate the supreme leader of Iran. As stated, this wasn't just a random military strike. The ultimate target was the supreme leader's own compound. Missiles dialed in on highly sensitive areas. We're talking specifically around University Street, the Jamhuri district, and near Pastor Street. If you know the layout of Tehran, you know exactly what this means. This zone isn't just another neighborhood. It is the absolute nerve center of the Iranian government. It houses the primary, day-to-day offices of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. But here's the catch. The IDF says they got him. An Iranian military says Khamenei was not inside his offices when the missiles actually made an impact. The strike may have leveled the compound, but the target slipped away. And right now, the entire region is holding its breath waiting to see what happens next. But reports says Israel says Khamenei's body has been found and he is confirmed dead. Listen, that first wave, it didn't hold back, not even a little. We're talking about a perfectly synchronized, overwhelming assault. The entire goal was to blind and cripple the regime all at once. First they hit Karaj, just completely ripping through their critical industrial and aerospace hubs. Then Tehran, the capital, rocked. Any illusion of safety they had was just completely shattered. They didn't stop there. They struck Qom, sending absolute shockwaves right through the ideological heart of the country. And if you follow this stuff, you know exactly how heavily fortified that area is. Over in the west, missiles literally rained down on Kermanshah. They neutralized those launch sites before the operators could even think about powering up their radars. And then there's Isfahan, the absolute crown jewel of their nuclear and drone programs. Heavily defended, didn't matter, it just lit up the night sky. But how did the US and Israel actually pull off a preemptive strike on Iran? First of all, look at this map. To make this happen, they didn't just rely on local land bases. They brought two massive floating cities right to Iran's doorstep. Down in the Arabian Sea, you've got the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group bearing down on the south and east. And over in the eastern Mediterranean, the biggest, newest ship, USS Gerald R. Ford. While Israeli jets flew all the way across the Middle East to reach Iranian airspace, timing was absolutely critical. The moment those IDF jets reached their marks, the missiles were released. And that brings us to the most terrifying, complicated part of this entire operation, the synchronization. Military planners rely on a tactic called time on target. Look at this map. You have missiles firing from submarines, cruise missiles launching from escort ships, and massive payload drops from stealth bombers. They are all deploying from completely different locations at entirely different times. But here is the genius of it. The US military machine was mathematically choreographed so everything impacted Kairaj, Tehran, Qom, Kermanshah, and Isfahan at the exact same second the Israeli jets dropped their guided bombs. It was designed to be a total systemic shock and explodes at the same time. A move to collapse the regime instantly. When those munitions finally hit, it was pure shock and awe. But why did the Iranian air defenses fail to activate? Well, to put it simply, the US military operates in a completely different league. Using a highly advanced mix of electronic warfare and cyber operations, coordinated from space to the ground, the coalition was able to inject false data directly into Iranian radar screens. Top-tier Iranian air defense systems, like their homegrown Baver and their Russian-supplied batteries, were absolutely overwhelmed by this electronic assault. But to actually hunt them down, the US set a brilliant trap. They launched hundreds of ABM-160 MALDs, miniature air-launched decoys. To a panicked Iranian radar operator staring at a chaotic screen, these tiny drones look exactly like a massive squadron of F-15s or F-16s screaming toward the capital. With the door kicked wide open, 5th-generation stealth fighters, including both US and Israeli F-35s with possible F-22 Raptors, sliced through the airspace completely undetected. Ultimately, the Iranian air defense network wasn't just suppressed, it was completely dismantled, at least for the time period. Because the Iranian do have a huge firepower. Tehran has fired back. In Operation Truthful Promise 4, a massive wave of missiles and drones just targeted US bases in Israel. Here's the fallout. The UAE's Al Dhafar air base was hit, leaving one dead from shrapnel. In Bahrain, the US Navy's 5th Fleet HQ was directly targeted. Qatar's air defenses successfully wiped out incoming missiles, while Kuwait locked down its entire airspace under heavy fire. Meanwhile, nationwide sirens are blasting across Israel, with massive mid-air interceptions lighting up the skies over Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. If you don't want your phone and emails to get compromised like that, you should get this military-grade VPN. Think of Surfshark VPN.
I love how he insected a commercial in his stuff. Good for him. I mean, we all have our sponsors and stuff, so you have to understand the game here. But he has us hooked. We're watching all this stuff, and remember, this was pretty much verified by Grok, you know, and I'm just wondering how much Elon had to do with all this stuff. I mean, one of the first things they did was knock out the radar systems with essentially a virus. It sounded like the movie Independence Day. They had no idea what they were looking at. Oh man, there's like 500 planes up there. Where? Right there. I don't see any planes. Unbelievable.
To fly all the way to Iran. At 9 in the morning, Israel launched more than a dozen aircraft, but it's a complicated process. They have to navigate or entirely bypass the airspace of neighboring countries like Syria and Iraq. To avoid hostile air defenses, defense analysts estimate the actual flight distance to reach central Iran is between 930 and 1,240 miles each way. Although these routes may seem straightforward, they involve complex planning, including calculations for air refueling and coordinating attack aircraft to pass through Jordan, Syria, and Iraq. Israel and U.S. strategy was to attack Iran in 3 waves. The first wave targeted surface air-to-air sites, radar installations, and Iran's air defense headquarters in Tehran, Elam, and Khuzestan. The second wave focused on destroying ballistic missiles, and finally, the third wave targeted military manufacturing industries. Kicking down the door. The attack begins not with manned aircraft, but with robotic precision from the sea. The goal is simple: blind the enemy's eyes, their radars, and silence their voice, their command and control. In the Persian Gulf and the Northern Arabian Sea, Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, ships like the USS Thomas Hudner, receive the launch order. The vertical launch system cells hiss open, and moments later, dozens of Tomahawk land attack missiles erupt from the decks. These missiles fly at subsonic speeds, humming the terrain in what we call nap-of-the-earth flight to stay below the radar horizon. They are programmed to loiter and strike simultaneously. Their warheads slam into S-300 and S-400 radar sites and command bunkers. They degrade the integrated air defense system, effectively carving out safe corridors for the pilots who are minutes behind them. 30 minutes past H hour, while the Tomahawks are still impacting, the silver bullets of the U.S. Air Force are already deep inside hostile airspace. These are the B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, with the air defense network fractured by Tomahawk cruise missiles, usually fired from destroyers hundreds of miles away. The path is now clear. Now comes the strategic sites like nuclear bunkers, which can be bombed by B-2 Spirit, the tip of the spear. Launching from bases in Jordan and the UAE, squadrons of F-15 East Strike Eagles roar into the theater. These are the bomb trucks of the operation. Each F-15 is heavily laden with GDAMs and small-diameter bombs. Interestingly, it can carry up to 19 GDAMs or 28 small-diameter weapons. While the B-2s hit the deep bunkers, the F-15s hunt the mobile targets. Their ADSA radars scan the ground for ballistic missile launchers hiding in valleys. Working in pairs, they drop precision bombs on missile convoys, hangars, and secondary command nodes. Once they are Winchester, out of ammo, or low on fuel, they don't go home yet. They connect to this tanker common launch tube that fits into almost any aircraft's existing fuel hatch. They retreat to those tanker tracks established in Phase 1, taking on thousands of pounds of jet fuel in midair before turning back for a second sortie. 2 hours past H hour. To sustain the pressure, the U.S. Navy's floating air bases enter the fight. Cruising in the Arabian Sea, a carrier strike group turns into the wind. Steam and electromagnetic catapults begin launching aircraft every 30 seconds. F/A-18 Super Hornets launch carrying anti-radiation missiles. Their job is DAD, destruction of enemy air defenses. They are hunting down any surviving radar operators foolish enough to turn their systems on. Meanwhile, F-35 Sea Lightning push forward to gather intelligence and strike high-threat targets that the older jets cannot reach. Orbiting far behind them are the E-2D Hawkeyes, the quarterbacks in the sky, managing the massive traffic of hundreds of U.S. jets. By sunrise, the first wave is over. The eyes of the enemy air defense have been blinded by Tomahawks. The heart of the nuclear program has been crushed by B-2s. And the limbs of the missile forces have been severed by F-15 and carrier aircraft. We make original videos from scratch, so please do.
You know, it's interesting when you see this, and I saw somebody say it in the chat, is like, why are we giving away secrets? Well, all this stuff is confirmed when they finish up and they give out the plans. But what I find very interesting is they don't care. And that's the part where you and I and people like us have to sit back and go, they feel so confident you can't stop us. And can you imagine that level of comfort to know that you're doing precision bombings, flying halfway around the world, refueling in air, and you can't be stopped? You know, any one of those other countries, you think if they were allies of Iran could maybe do something, but they're owning the skies. And that's what Bibi Netanyahu said. We control the sky over Iran. If the good guys control the sky over Iran, they're done. They're completely done.
Electronically scanned array radar had painted every one of them before the Iranian launch crews had climbed back into their vehicles. The operators had 8 minutes before the first impacts. They used 6 of them to kill every single one. The USS Abraham Lincoln is a Nimitz-class nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. She displaces 100,000 tons, carries roughly 90 aircraft, and has been the crown jewel of Carrier Strike Group 3 since deploying to the 5th Fleet's area of responsibility in late January 2026. She arrived at a moment of maximum tension. Iran had suffered catastrophic losses to its missile infrastructure during Israel's June 2025 strikes. Production facilities had been gutted, launcher counts slashed. A country that once boasted 3,000 ballistic missiles was working from a depleted playbook and cornered leadership. When those 52 missiles left their tubes, the people who fired them weren't running military calculations. They were running out of options. The world's press would spend the next 48 hours reporting on Iranian state media claims of a successful attack. The Lincoln's navigation log, which showed 0 course changes and 0 speed adjustments during the engagement window, was not broadcast on Iranian television. What they fired tells the story of Iran's post-war doctrine. 28 Khalij Fars anti-ship ballistic missiles led the salvo. The Khalij Fars, whose name translates directly as Persian Gulf, is the IRGC's dedicated naval strike ballistic weapon. It's a variant of the solid-fueled Fateh 110, fitted with an electro-optical and infrared seeker designed to lock onto the heat signature of a warship during the terminal phase. 300-kilometer range, 650-kilogram warhead, Mach 3 at impact. It was built specifically for this scenario. Saturate American carrier defenses with enough inbound fire that some fraction of warheads punch through. Behind the Khalij Fars came 16 EMAD medium-range ballistic missiles, liquid-fueled weapons derived from the Shahab 3, designed to overwhelm radar tracking capacity with sheer volume across different approach vectors. The final 8 were Hormuz, 2 anti-radar missiles, whose seekers home on the electromagnetic emissions of ship-based radar systems. Disable the sensors. Let the warheads through. Clever theory. Fatal execution. 2:23 a.m. The Hawkeye's AN, APY-9, lit them all up before the Iranian crews had driven their launchers back under cover. The E-2D Advanced Hawkeye is often described as the Navy's eyes, which understates the aircraft considerably. The AN, APY-9, is an active electronically scanned array that simultaneously performs mechanical rotation and electronic beam steering, 2 scanning modes working in parallel, hunting different threat profiles at the same time. It detects targets at ranges exceeding 550 kilometers. It sees ballistic missiles rising through the boost phase. It sees cruise missiles skimming the wave tops. It sees everything, classifies it, and transmits the full tactical picture across link, 16 to every ship, aircraft, and submarine in the strike group within seconds of detection.
I just wonder if you guys understand what you're hearing here. All those calculations, and within seconds, it responds. Now you're understanding, or should be understanding, why President Trump is so hot on AI. Because the human couldn't do that. A human couldn't make all those calculations, understand incoming, what kind of speed, what kind of weapon it is, recognize all that stuff, and then make a return so that they don't hit the aircraft carrier in seconds. It's not somebody charting wind speed and no, do what you need to do. I'm just standing here. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
This morning, the Hawkeye crew cataloged 52 tracks in under 40 seconds and transmitted firing assignments before the missiles had cleared 20,000 feet. The Iranians expected to catch the Lincoln sleeping. Instead, they handed a fully awake network 8 minutes of warning. What happened next wasn't a defense. It was a firing solution. The USS Abraham Lincoln Strike Group operates on a concept called NIFCCA, Naval Integrated Fire Control Counter-Air. The idea is deceptively simple. Every sensor in the group feeds a common picture, and every shooter in the group can engage targets detected by any sensor, not just its own. The E-2D's radar data flowed instantly to the Aegis combat systems. If Iran blocks the...
I'm sorry. I know that's a lot to think about. I can't imagine. I cannot imagine that we've advanced to this point where I guess you just have to sit there and make sure it's on. I don't know what they're doing. And the comfortability to say, hey, here's our battle plan. Here's what we did, how we did it. It doesn't matter if you know it next time because you don't have what we have. And we're going to make sure that you don't have what we have. Now, I guess you guys have been seeing something else in the news maybe about the Strait of Hormuz. It says the Strait of Hormuz is in full crisis mode right now. U.S.-Israeli strikes sparked explosions, heavy GPS jamming, and fresh Houthi threats. Major shipping companies are pulling vessels out and rerouting around the entire area. The world's most important oil choke point is indeed getting well choked. Now, you find it interesting that before President Trump and Raising Cane and Pete Hegseth did this to Iran, they had already taken into account what America would need and what our enemies can't have by taking Maduro out of Venezuela. Because once you sit back and look, I'm like, oh, so they knew that they were going to cut off the Straits of Hormuz. And if they cut off the Straits of Hormuz, what would happen? Well, then oil would probably spike. And so you may see things tomorrow morning where, oil may spike. I'm already looking right now and seeing that silver spiked and gold spiked already ahead of tomorrow. So we'll watch what happens in the markets early because of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this guy here, another AI guy, explains to you the importance of the Straits of Hormuz.
Strait of Hormuz. What impact will it have on the entire world, and which country will be affected the most? First, let's understand what the Strait of Hormuz actually is. It is a small area of just 33 kilometers located between Iran, Oman, and the UAE. It is a narrow sea passage through which almost 20% of the world's oil supply flows, nearly 17 million barrels every day. This oil comes from 8 countries located in the Persian Gulf, including Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE for the United Arab Emirates. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Qatar, 90% of their oil exports pass through this narrow route to reach the rest of the world. If Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz, following countries will suffer the most damage. First is India, because it imports 85% of its oil, and 60% of that comes from Middle Eastern countries like Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the UAE. Fuel.
Now you have to understand, who recently did a deal with President Trump? I mean, literally within the last couple of weeks. India. Hey guys, here's what's going to happen. So we're gonna do some things in Iran. You better not say anything. And when we do, they're probably going to shut down the Straits of Hormuz, which means it's going to impact you. We got you though. We're going to make sure you have everything you need. You with us? Yeah, we're with you.
Prices in India would skyrocket, and as a result, everything related to oil and all industries would face severe disruption. Industries could shut down, there would be job losses, and the economy would be severely affected. The second most affected country would be China. China is the world's largest oil importer, bringing in 10 million barrels of oil every day.
Not now. Not now. So now, China, the spigot is being turned off in terms of 10 million barrels per day. You think that might have some leverage when President Trump talks to Xi Jinping? He's supposed to talk to him in April. Hey, listen, you're not getting more of this Iranian stuff here. How's it working out? I got this Venezuela stuff. It's really good, man. It's like Maui Wowie. You want some of this Venezuela stuff? I can hook you up. Don't tell me that Venezuela wasn't, what they did with Maduro wasn't planned ahead of what they did this past weekend. They knew. You had to foresee, they're going to stop sending oil out of there. So if they stop sending over there, who's it affect? Oh, it affects India. Hey, India, come on, we got to talk. China. Oh, you're worried about tariffs. Well, you know what? Maybe we can do something. The Supreme Court doesn't want us using tariffs. Maybe you're going to have to buy some of our oil.
40% of China's oil imports pass through this Strait of Hormuz. Although China has built oil pipelines with Russia and Central Asia, they don't even fulfill 20% of its energy needs. So, if the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, China's economy could suffer a massive blow. And if
I don't know. I'm watching things, and I'm thinking that when they gameplayed this out, the man's genius, or whoever put the plan together is flipping genius. If their economy, which watch tomorrow, watch what happens. Maybe get up at about 7 o'clock and just look at CNBC, look at the charts, and look at what happens with crude oil, and look at who's suffering, and look who has to make moves. There's no oil to be had. Russia and over there isn't giving China enough. They can't survive. So it may not be big of a deal tomorrow or next week, but if this thing goes extended, it's going to turn China's economy off. So at which point China will be forced to do a deal.
China's economy is shaken, its effects will be felt all over the world. The third most affected country would be Japan, as it imports 90% of its oil, and 75% of that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. The fourth most affected country would be Saudi Arabia. 80 to 90% of Saudi Arabia's oil goes to the rest of the world through Strait of Hormuz, while only 10% goes to Europe via its Red Sea coastline. So if this choke point is blocked, Saudi Arabia's economy will be heavily impacted. Imagine that a country suddenly loses 80 to 90% of its revenue. What would happen to it? Something similar could happen to Saudi Arabia. There's also a high chance that Saudi Arabia might send in its military to reopen the route, and that could make the situation even worse.
That already happened. That already happened. Saudi is like fully behind whatever Israel and the United States need. Now you know why Saudis were so quick to we're going to make sure this is okay, because they can't sell. They're not buyers. They can't sell if the Straits of Hormuz are closed. And so Iran is not going to be able to basically stop that oil from flowing for too long, because when you look at the coalition there, you've got Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, all looking at Iran like, you're messing with the flow, bro. You can't be cutting off our ducats this way. So they're going to be screwed. Absolutely screwed.
Pakistan, which gets about 90% of its oil through the Strait of Hormuz. This oil meets around 27% of the country's energy needs. So if the route is blocked, prices in Pakistan could rise sharply. But there's an interesting twist. Since Pakistan shares a border with Iran, and several government reports suggest that 35% of Pakistan's diesel comes unofficially from Iran. So if the strait is blocked, Pakistan might turn to Iran for oil, either quietly or through an official deal. Next in line is the UAE, because as nearly as 72% of its oil exports rely on this Strait of Hormuz. The country does have a backup option, the Habshan-Fujairah pipeline, which allows it to bypass the strait and export up to 60% of its oil. But for a major economy like the UAE, losing the remaining 40% would still be a serious blow. Next comes the European countries like France, Germany and Italy, which on average get 10% of their oil through the Strait of Hormuz. A blockade here would hit them hard as well. Globally, experts warn that oil prices could soar past $150 a barrel, causing widespread inflation.
All right. So I've been a big advocate of skating to where the puck is going to go. If you've stayed this long, you now know tomorrow where that puck is likely headed. You now know right now that and you can watch the news, and don't watch the crazy news. Find out, is the Strait of Hormuz being opened? No. Anybody talking about the Straits of Hormuz? No, they're talking about craziness and DEI and Epstein. Anybody want to know what's going to happen if the Straits of Hormuz remain closed? Well, it looks like oil prices could go to 100 to 150 a barrel. Anybody know what season it is in most of the United States? Winter, where people need heating oil, which is predominantly most of the blue states. You now know where it's likely the puck is headed. And if you watch closely, there are some things that are pretty much reflective of unrest in the economy. and I'm not even running a commercial for him today, but keep an eye on gold and silver tomorrow, and keep an eye on oil prices. It's going to be, well, it should be quite important for you to check that stuff out. I'm just saying.
Triggering a major global recession. So this small 33-kilometer area holds enough power to shake the entire world.
That's what's going on. And that's just a little bit of what's going on. So just want to let you know what I'm going to be doing next is I'm showing you my interview with Scott Turner from HUD. I had to do a lot of editing because the camera angles and everything else, the way they had it set up, isn't like when I was in the Congress area. But, you know, it's going to be a little sound weird, but you're going to get some content. And I want you to hear the answers to the questions that I gave him. Quick, one more sponsor. If you are one of those type of people where you're getting, you know, you start thinking, I'm getting to that age where you're tired all the time. I know how you feel. I used to feel that way. Then I started doing this show and I'm like, I can't feel that way. I need to make sure that I'm up. And so I sleep very well because of the different supplements I take. And here's another one. If you feel, you know, tired all the time or bloated after every meal and no amount of water seems to help, then listen to this, because recently I was dealing with all of that, you know, back before I started the show, and I started to call Dr. Josh for some help. I told him what was going on, and his response kind of shocked me. It's funny how many doctors contact me because they especially when when I show you the video with Dr. Marty from the FDA, RFK Jr.'s guy, and we talked. Let me just do a segue here. It was very interesting because as I'm talking to him, he's asking me, what are you taking? What are you doing? And I'm like, okay, makes sense. But let me get back to this. He said that he said that he was showing all the telltale signs of a dehydrated liver. Not dehydrated like you need to drink more water. You have to actually get a part of the problem that you have to get fixed. You see, most people think hydration is just about drinking enough water. But here's what Dr. Josh has said. Your liver is your body's main hydration organ. And if your liver cells aren't getting water at the cellular level, it doesn't matter how many glasses you drink a day, the water just runs right through you, even at night. And when your liver is dehydrated, everything suffers. Your energy tanks, your digestion slows, you bloat, you hold on to stubborn weight, your skin looks dull, and you feel decades older than you actually are. You guys, anybody feeling that way? Plain water can't fix this on its own. And most electrolyte drinks are just sugar and salt that completely ignore your liver. That's why Dr. Josh, a practicing doctor with over 25 years of medical expertise, created a daily hydration drink called LTV. It's not just another electrolyte powder like Gatorade. LTV combines clinical dose marine-based electrolytes like taurine to help your cells actually hold on to water, plus milk thistle. I mean, you can buy that on your own, milk thistle, and dandelion root to support your liver's natural detox function. You know, I get all this stuff because Robin has turned into quite the health nut. I mean, she's researching all this stuff for me. She knows our livelihood depends on me being here. And so LTV has already helped thousands of people and has received credible reviews from customers who notice results fast. That's when, you know, people hear this, they immediately hang up the phone or do what you need to do and order some from his website. For the last few weeks, I had been drinking, actually, when I started taking it, and every morning, it was like one of the first things I grab when I go out and talk, you know, sit with the dogs. And I'm happy to report that I've been able to say goodbye to any bloating. I don't have any afternoon crashes, and that dried out, foggy feeling that some people have, I don't have it at 65. Ashley will tell you, I ran, other than having to walk and that painful stuff in Washington, everything else, I was bright-eyed and ready to go. So you get a body that actually feels hydrated for the first time in years. This stuff is powerful. You will be amazed at how much better you'll feel in a very short period of time. But again, you're not going to get results like this from a regular electrolyte drink or by just drinking more water. Dr. Josh put his 25 years of experience into LTV to make sure it actually delivers real cellular hydration, not just expensive pee. So if you're ready to hydrate your liver at the cellular level and finally feel a difference in your energy, your digestion, and your waistline, just go to http://drinkltv.com/Barry to get your hands on LTV today. That link is in the description below. And by the way, it's your lucky day because Dr. Josh is running a special offer where you can get up to 64% off LTV for a limited time. But this deal is only available through the link in the description, as you can see here on the screen. The link is right below this video. Do yourself a favor, go click it, and give your liver the hydration it has been missing. All right, so let me finish up here. When I went to Washington, I got a chance to meet with many members of the cabinet. I'm going to be showing you some of these videos as we go through it. And then the day before, as you saw, we've met with many people in Congress. This video I'm going to show you is an interview with HUD Secretary Scott Turner. And so Scott is a great guy. He is just as affable in person as you see him on television when President Trump is introducing him. And I can happily say, and I'll take some time in here, that what I've been telling you, he pretty much says. There is no affordability problem. Let me just say that again. There is no affordability problem in the United States in housing. Doesn't exist. It's a fallacy. It's made up. It's made up by the media. It's made up by the black pillars. It's made up by just so many people. It's more propaganda. It's more brainwashing. The same way you bought your first house. It's not because you're a boomer. It's because you were taught. And when I interviewed Eric Burleson, he said the same thing. We were taught you got to start small. You're going to have to buy someplace that's not your forever home, because that's why they call them starter homes. And today these kids feel so, well, I'm going to let Scott, you're going to hear it. But please excuse some of the audio. Like I said, I've had to do some things with it, but let's listen in.
Get in. We're stealing homes. We're not like those other home criminals that steal your stuff. We steal your hard-earned home equity. We find your property online from the public record. Got it. Create a deed transfer that makes us the homeowners. Got it. And borrow tons of cash against your equity, and you won't know till the foreclosure notice hits months later.
Did you know that American homeowners nationwide have over $32 trillion in equity? And cyber criminals, the smart ones that they are targeting that equity with a growing scam the FBI calls house stealing. House alarms, doorbell cameras, and deadbolts won't work against these thieves because they're not after your stuff. They're after your equity. I've been a real estate investor for nearly 30 years, and Robin has been an agent for over 22 years here in Florida. I've seen firsthand how scammers can steal your home. It's actually surprisingly easy. If your title isn't being monitored, scammers can transfer the title of your home into their name using a one-page document that they file at the local courthouse. If the document is filed correctly, the county and the courthouse will accept it. They don't even check. Then the scammers can take out loans against your property or even sell it behind your back. The scariest part? It's unlikely that the county office will even notify you. You won't find out anything until a collection notice or even a foreclosure notice starts arriving in your mailbox. But by then, the damage has been done, and you're left with a financial and legal nightmare. The best way to protect your equity is with triple lock protection from our friends at Home Title Lock. Triple lock protection is 24/7 monitoring and alerts of any changes to your title, and God forbid, if the worst happens, restoration services at no out-of-pocket cost to you. So when was the last time you checked on your title? If you're like most people, the answer is never. And that's exactly what scammers are counting on. But you can check on your home title today and make sure you're not already a victim. You can get a free title history report and a 30-day free trial of triple lock protection today by going to HomeTitleLock.com and using the promo code BARRY or click in the link in the description. If you want peace of mind, go to HomeTitleLock.com and use the promo code BARRY. So you got so much going on in HUD. First thing I'd like to find out from you is, what were the problems? I know you talked about so much fraud that you have. What other problems did you find that you had to rectify so far?
Well, there was a lot of problems. And the president talks about it a lot. When we came into this administration, Barry, we really inherited a fiscal mess. When I say that, inflation was high, mortgage rates were high, interest rates were high, tens of millions of illegals coming across our border, unchecked, unvetted, which put a strain on housing supply, which put a strain on housing costs, made housing costs go up. And at HUD, we have public housing authorities. And our job is to make sure that we prioritize American people and American people only. But through our agency financial report, we found that, about 100,000 people in public housing have to have more verification of their immigration status. And so 9 times out of 10, these people are here illegally. And so we've done a couple of things at HUD to make sure that we're serving American people. We stopped FHA-backed mortgages from going to illegal aliens. We signed an MOU with the Department of Homeland Security to make sure that those that receive HUD-funded housing are American people, U.S. citizens, or those that are eligible to be here. And so because of this, we're now able to serve more American families. And so closing the border under President Trump and Mr. Tom Hogan and Secretary Noem, securing our border helps us to know, number one, who's here, number two, who's living in HUD-funded housing. We came here speaking of waste, fraud, and abuse. In the first couple of months when we were here, we found $1.9 billion of misplaced funds. How you misplaced $2 million, I'm not sure. And so what we did, we de-obligated those funds and sent them back to the Treasury. That is American taxpayer dollars. We canceled about $4 million just in DEI contracts. DEI has nothing to do with it. DEI is dead at HUD. It's dead across this administration. And so when you find this kind of waste and fraud and abuse, it really makes you think, how much more is there? When you look at Minnesota, HUD alone, about $84 million, that we found. We found about $5 billion across the nation in payment, alleged, if you will, payment errors. And so what we have been doing is being very intentional about being good stewards of American taxpayer dollars.
Was nobody checking?
Well, they were turning a blind eye to it. I'll give you an example. I talked about our qualified mixed status rule. It's a new proposed rule which closes the loophole of mixed status households. And it's called qualified citizen. During the Biden administration, they were turning a blind eye to the law. For instance, if you wanted to get HUD-funded housing and live in a PHA, public housing authority, or those that accept, rental assistance, you can sign a declaration to say you're a U.S. citizen during the Biden administration, but yet provide no proof. And then you had others signing that said, I do not contend my immigration status. And so you had an alleged legal citizen, and then those that do not contend living in the same household, which made up mixed status households. And so you ask me, how does this happen? You turn the blind eye to the law. As the Secretary of HUD, Section 214 of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1980 says this, and I'm paraphrasing, that the HUD Secretary cannot provide assistance or allow assistance to be made available to those who are here illegally or ineligible. Well, if you turn the blind out of that, what do you get?
Yeah, there you go. I was a real estate investor myself, been buying, selling houses for 25, 26 years. At one point, I had a slew of Section 8 houses.
I saw tremendous fraud in the secondary housing. I saw people who were using it as a way of life instead of a break. Yeah, so people would be there and they would have their baby mama, their baby daddy, and 7 or 8 other people. What are we doing with the Section 8 program? So, and I know I touched on the illegal immigration, but there is a lot of fraud and abuse. We also have been very intentional about holding our BHAs accountable. And those that receive HUD assisted Section 8, Section 9 vouchers, as you spoke of. And we've been here a year and we've made great progress, but there's a lot of work to be done. But we now have financial controls in place, and we're working on other mechanisms, if you will. And I don't want to get ahead of our team, but we're working on other mechanisms to make sure that we can have transparency, if you will, and accountability to where American taxpayer dollars, as it pertains to HUD, Section 8, Section 9, where those dollars are going, also at the sub-recipient level. So not just to those that are awarded, but those that are the sub-recipients. And so, those mechanisms are all come. It's being involved in real estate. I don't understand myself on people say there's some portability problem, because the FHA program has been around for a long time. It only requires a 3.5% down payment. Your credit doesn't have to be stellar. In certain instances, you can have the down payment gifted to you. Mm-hmm. Do people not know about that program? Yes, sir. That's a great question you raised. And thank you for bringing it up. Last year, to your point, last year at HUD, we helped 1 million people through our FHA and Ginnie Mae program. Right. And 500,000 of those were first-time home buyers. Right. You're not going to hear that from the fake news or the mainstream media because
I got to jump in. I just want to make sure you heard that. 1 million people bought houses through the FHA program. 500,000 of them were first-time home buyers. If you take nothing from this interview, understand right now, there is no such thing as a home affordability problem. And I've been telling people this since I've done this show. If you have a job, if you have decent credit, you can get a home with 3.5% down. And then there's another kicker. That 3.5% can come from somebody else. So you tell me how there's a home affordability problem. Do the math, take the interest rates, see what that is. If you want to buy a $200,000 home and you got to pay 3% or 3.5% down, that's $7,000 or $6,000 if it's 3% versus 3.5, $6,000 or $7,000 down. You only need to have a 550 credit score. So it means basically you can fog a mirror and you get a house. Oh, you don't have 6 or 7. It can be gifted to you. So how is it that right now people aren't realizing that they're walking around with, an approval for a $200,000 house? Oh, but Barry, there's no $200,000 houses. Oh, seriously? No. The problem is these people are entitled. They won't live where they can afford. The whole DEI bullcrap has meant I should have what you have. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. Maybe you'll get there. And the government's job is to give you the opportunity so that you can get there. You can buy the house someday on the water. You can get the 5-bedroom, 4-bath house eventually. But right now, if you're not in the game, you're never going to win. And so they keep renting and complaining. And the media keeps talking about housing affordability. And I was so happy that 1 million houses, 500,000 were first-time home buyers. Let that sink in.
Don't tell the good news that's going on. But we're going to tell it. And so I will say for your listeners and your viewers that FHA is it is the program for first-time home buyers. And we want to make sure, obviously, people have to be qualified. You know, they have to be, you know, legal citizens. They have to have a job. But the FHA program is a wonderful program for first-time home buyers in our nation. And we'll continue to use that as that tool to help people in America that want to achieve the American dream. And really, man, that's what we're doing. We're restoring the American dream of home ownership under President Trump.
But do people, in your plans, are you planning anything where the down payment assistance gift program can be expanded? Because, you know, me personally, if I'm going to buy a house and I want to sell it to Ashley, and she doesn't have the down payment as the seller, if I could say, okay, I'll take 3% off my 3.5% off my purchase price, I'll get you the down payment. If we had more those type of programs, would that help?
Well, that's really loaded. And yes, I mean, there's been a myriad of ideas as it pertains to down payment, as it pertains to using other vehicles that like savings accounts that people have in order to help them with their down payment. These and other conversations are being had as we speak, because we want to make sure that the American people can achieve the American dream appropriately, obviously doing the right thing. Yes, sir. These conversations and others are on the table.
Here's a hard job for you. How do you get some of these younger people who scream about things being unaffordable and not understanding you can't go shopping on the intercoastal a book or a time if you need to be in a starter home? Like, I think some of these kids have, you know, champagne taped on beer budgets, right? And they've been given everything, so much entitlement. Like, no, you're not there yet. Is there a starter home program you guys might come up with?
You know what? I think that's deeper.
Okay.
It's a spirit of entitlement. Yeah. And I think that starts at the parents. And it starts with our generation and being hard on the kids and creating a struggle for them. You know, and you look at this in college football and college sports. You know, everybody wants to be the starter. And if you're not the starter, you get mad, you leave. You know, so I think it's all across the board in our nation, the spirit of entitlement. Whereas before, it used to be, okay, here's my goal. Here's my strategy to get there. I know there's going to be bumps along the way. I know there's going to be trials along the way. I know I will fail along the way, but I'm going to keep working and I'm not going to quit. And nobody has to give it to me because I have not earned it. And so really, I think people, man, it's a spirit.
You saw football, and you're a man of God. Yeah. And it just seems like the word is, you were describing these big meetings. And when you went to school, you went to Nebraska, right? Illinois. When you got your offer, you had to commit to it. And I think that's lost to a lot of young people.
It is.
I see you're going to have one more question, I think you got to run. Opportunities.
Yeah.
Opportunities have done so well for me personally. And when I find this flow with people, they don't see what we understand all the opportunity. The opportunities are right. If you hear those out of Florida, Delray Beach has an amazing opportunity zone. It's literally a mile and a half from the beach, but it's an opportunity zone. But one of the problems there is the permitting, the regulations. It's to get in to actually buy the land and then start constructing. Right. What are we looking at doing to facilitate the permitting process?
Well, as you know, opportunity zones have been made permanent now because of the One Big Beautiful Bill. And the anticipation is great. The first round of opportunity zones have done a tremendous job in our country. About $90 billion, almost $100 billion of private investment. 1 million people lifted off of property, 300,000 new housing units, home values inside of opportunity zones, a 3.4% increase. Great.
So if you're not familiar with what an opportunity zone, I understand when we started talking here, it may get in the weeds with some people, but think of it as me whetting your appetite for you to begin looking at opportunity zones wherever you live. You could go in, you can simply Google opportunity zones, put in your zip code, and it'll tell you where the opportunity zone is near where you live. It's all across the country. It's permanent. So the opportunities in the opportunity zone are voluminous. There are all kinds of loan programs, all kinds of developer programs that you can get involved in and build a home, or build your own home, or build one for somebody else if you've got that kind of experience. But They're out there. It takes work. You have to look them up. I see this comment by Born on the 4th, and this is the kind of thing we have to defeat. And I don't mean this in a bad way to her. She says, I don't agree. I know a lot of young people who know homes have doubled in price, but salaries haven't in 8 years. That's a crutch. Home prices may have doubled in 8 years, but their salaries haven't. Well, then what's their income? That's what you're saying the problem is. It's not the affordability of the home. It's they're not making enough money. What do? Are they baristas? Do they actually have jobs that are paying? Because I can simply do the math really quick. Let's say somebody only makes 40 grand a year. And if they're making $40,000 a year, and they have to be within like a 40% ratio in terms of income to debt, see, that's the other thing. When I was growing up, when I had to buy a house and I had to do my debt to income ratio, it says, okay, here's how much you make, here's how much debt you have. Well, guess what? Maybe that car payment, nope, you're going to have to buy a beater. Maybe you don't have the expensive data plan on your cell phone. Got to come down, because if your debt to income ratio, I think they will go as high as maybe 40% right now. Your debt to income ratio means how much debt do you have relative to your income. Think of it as a giant Jenga board. You've got to figure out what things you need to pull so that the whole thing doesn't come crashing down. And then once you figure out what your debt to income ratio is, and then you find out how much of a loan you get, and then you find out what your down payment is, then you can go shopping. You can't go shopping without knowing what you have in your pocket to afford. That's where so many people go wrong. They just start I want to buy. No, you have to go. You have to know what you can spend first. I would advise anybody, no matter what age you are, to get pre-qualified if you're looking to buy a house. Go in, talk to a mortgage broker, preferably not a bank, and say, hey, I'd like to buy a house. I want to know how much I can afford. Make that your first step before you go on Zillow, before you go on Redfin, before you look at Realtor.com. Go see somebody and let them run your numbers, run your credit, and say, okay, hey, Jen, you can afford a house of this much. Now go shopping. And then I've known other people who have done that and then went out and bought a car like 2 weeks before they were supposed to close, and they can't get the mortgage because they just shifted their debt to income ratio. The terms I'm using right now are the terms that the enlightened ignorant don't know. And they say stuff like, my salary hasn't gone up and the houses have doubled. I can guarantee you the houses didn't double in that sort of area. And it's not the ghetto. It may not be the prettiest one. I mean, just think back to when you were 16. And when you were 16, the biggest thing in freedom was you were going to get your driver's license and then you're going to buy a car. And I'm pretty sure your first car, unless dad or mom took care of you, your first car wasn't a Bentley. Your first car wasn't a Cybertruck. Your first car was some beat up thing. It ran, but it was yours. It wasn't the prettiest thing, but it was yours. And that's how people have to start looking at housing. And the only way they're going to be able to do that is not to go out with big eyes and think, I want to live here or there. You have to start by knowing what you can afford. And then there's other things you can do with HUD and do house hacking. Anybody know what house hacking is? House hacking is I can't afford to buy a house by myself, so I'm going to buy a duplex. And the other side, I'm going to rent out. And I'm going to rent out that other side that I can now claim as my income. And if that other side is rented out for $1,000 a month, that means I just pulled in an extra $12,000 a year. Now I can go get my 203 loan program from HUD, and my 203 loan program, excuse me, will allow me to do what I need to do. I could talk about this literally for hours because I've done it. Wow, excuse me. So when I had a chance to talk to Scott, I was like, man, let's go. Let's talk to these people about what they need, and the whole FHA program. All these programs are there for you. We've got 1 minute and 44 seconds left. It's basically audio. His camera froze, but you can hear him.
Stay stable. And I say all those stats because I believe we're going to do even better.
Right.
The localities, the municipalities, they have to take inventory. And I've been pushing this and encouraging very strongly, because you cannot mandate it, obviously, to take inventory of your regulatory environment. Because when regulations, as you know, Barry, come down, it brings costs down, which unleashes development and opportunity to build. Now, inside of opportunity zones, in our last round, there were reference points, if you will, given to those projects that were built inside of opportunity zones. And so I anticipate that will be the same this next round, but it is the local municipalities to take inventory of their regulatory environment. Because when those regulations come down and you allow people to build, and particularly opportunity zones, it impacts the community like no other.
In Delray versus Fort Lauderdale, the opportunities on Fort Lauderdale have already been built up. I mean, they're putting up with 20-story, towers and everything else. Delray, it's like you said, it's got to be at the local basis for people to begin facilitating. There's still, here it is 2026, there's still vacant land. Right by the beach at Delray Beach.
Well, let me see how maybe I can help. Be an ambassador for opportunities on to speak to those that are in Delray Beach. Maybe just to give them a greater understanding.
Yeah, I'd love to work with you personally some of that stuff because I'm looking to do some single family development as well. So thank you for your time today. I'm a strong advocate and proponent for everything that you're doing, and I love it. Thank you very much. All right, God bless you.
God bless you.
I could have literally stayed there for hours if he didn't have to go to the next interview. I'm going to show you, not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, because the biggest problem I can see with housing right now, and it's something that just keeps happening even in the chat, is people don't believe. They don't buy in. They immediately think this isn't something I can do. And if that's what people think, then they're not going to do it. They don't understand the programs. I saw somebody said, I don't even know where I would get the gift from. Do you know there are agencies that will do the gifting for you? There are different community renewal departments that will give you the down payment. But the problem is people aren't being taught this stuff. And so it just becomes an insurmountable problem where, because they don't know what the FHA program is, they don't understand the gifting program, how you can have somebody else gift it, they don't know the credit, they don't know anything. And it's funny because I'm sitting down with the Secretary of HUD, and right away he knows, I know what you're talking about, and let's talk further about the opportunity zone here in Delray Beach, Florida. Because I know what it is. And the only reason I know, because somebody taught me, and then I had to start looking even further. I've got videos that I actually posted about the opportunity zone down here, and I and another partner, we started building homes because of it. Here, let me show you the opportunity zone website, and maybe you guys can go to it. This is HUD.gov/opportunity zones. And like I said, you can go on here and actually find the opportunity zone wherever you are in the country. I'm in Florida, obviously, but if I went way over here, hold on, let me zoom out. You can see the map of all the look at all that green. You see that green? And it's not money yet, but as you would go in here, you would begin seeing all of the different places that have opportunity zones. And down here, again, it's a wealth of information, but you have to consume the information. Nobody's just going to come over and tell you, hey, listen, you could do something here in Opportunity Zone. What is an Opportunity Zone? Opportunity zones are economically distressed communities defined by individual census tract nominated by America's governors and certified by the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, that would be Scott Bessent, via their delegation of authority to the IRS. Under certain conditions, new investments in Opportunity Zones may be eligible for, and here we go, preferential tax incentives. See, one of the problems people don't understand is that, as George Carlin says, it's a big club and some of you aren't in it. But fortunately for some people, the club doesn't have a huge entry fee, except for knowledge and knowing where to go to find the various knowledge banks that you need. How many of you right now can say, I know the intricacies of the FHA program? Probably not a lot. Here's something for you. And this is even people your age and my age. Define a first-time home buyer. And when you find that definition, I'm going to let you guys go look yourself. Because when you hear first-time home buyer, many of you are like, that's not me, I've owned a home. Really? Once you find out what a first-time home buyer is, and then you realize you can have that same first-time home buyer program to your opportunity to you. So depending on where you are in life right now, imagine if you wanted to buy a new home and like you had 3 or 3.5% down, and you don't even know that program's available to you. Look, you guys should go look it up. I don't want to do everything. Look it up. And if you guys want, I put this at the end of the show because a lot of people don't like me talking about this stuff. So I had the opportunity to talk to the Secretary of HUD, and I'm like, when Ashley handed me the sheet, I was like, oh man, I get to talk to Scott Turner. I get to talk to the guy who's in charge of all these programs. And I'm like, I can't wait to tell everybody else what's going on and getting, I'm ecstatic. I'm waiting to see here. Somebody goes, yeah, I do. 5 years after first purchase. I thought it might be as long as 10 right now, but they're changing it. So imagine you bought a home 5 years ago. Right now, you're still considered a first-time home buyer. So if you and your wife or you and your kids or whatever decided, you know what, I want to get that first-time home buyer program. Then you got to look up what are the limits. How much can you borrow as an FHA loan? It's going to also go by zip code. That's going to shock you. How much of a loan can I get in zip code 12345 in an FHA program? You go, oh my God. Yeah, I'm telling you, you're going to be shocked. If you're in the market, or you have a friend or a family member in the market and you've never explored FHA and Fannie Mae, and you look at some of these programs, you're going to find out just the same as I've been telling you, there is no housing affordability problem. It's education. And because you're going to see it for yourself. And I've said many times, I could, not that I want to go parachuting, but if somebody said, we're going to drop you out of this airplane anywhere in the country, I could buy a house with limited money down in about 7 to 10 days. If you know where you're looking and if you know what to ask for, how many of you have ever heard the term seller concessions? You see, it drives me nuts because people spend $100,000 a year going to school and then have no idea what to do. And Scott and his team have put so much information on that website, it'll blow you away. Absolutely blow you away. All right. HOAs are run by Karens or Mormons where I live. That could be a problem. I would love to help my kids. Well, look at the FHA program. Check it out. I bought my where'd that go? I bought my condo 33 years ago, and I was so grateful I never had a mortgage. HOA fees and assessments are a mortgage payment for me. Yeah, that could be something. Yep, get the seller to pay for it. I meant, you see, I mentioned it during the interview, so I was waiting to see anybody catch on what I just said. I gladly, the person that's buying the house, hey, you want this house? I'll gladly give you seller concessions. I hope they're not watching. First time home buyer is someone who has not owned real estate in the last 3 years. I think it's 5. And you might want to look deeper into that. I have a person 4 houses down from me with a sign that says, "We love immigrants," in a yard full of weeds. Well, you know what? If that person is selling their house, go knock on the door. Hey, listen, you cut a deal. Some sellers will pay the closing costs and such, but if you don't know to ask, you ain't ever getting it. It ain't gonna happen. Buying my first home this year. Good for you. Good for you, Johnny. Great info from Scott. Barry knows what to ask, unlike the reporters out there. They're not in the game. And so the next time you hear somebody say, if you're on X or any, and you'll shut them down real quick, housing is too expensive. Where do you live? How much do you have down? What's your credit score? Huh? I don't know. So you have no idea. You have literally no idea. You're going shopping and you don't even know what you can afford to buy. Yep, seller assist. Yep, exactly. All these programs are out there. We built a brand new home in Lombardo subdivision. We only took $1,500 of our own cash, $180,000 to build. Sold it for 3. Hold on, let me. That's what I'm talking about. It's 3 years. I'm an agent. Okay. Well, Robin is an agent too. Don't let me tell you what I think about agents sometimes. But 3 years. All right. Great info from Barry knows what to ask. I like the reporters. I just want to make sure you guys get information. And I have a 2-bedroom Florida home in Pinellas, an average neighborhood going for $325. 2 bedrooms is crazy. Why is it crazy? It's supply and demand. If people weren't buying, then the price wouldn't be that way. I mean, I don't get it sometimes when people say the prices are crazy. The prices are what they are because somebody has decided they're willing to pay for it. Down here, they're literally probably a mile and a half east. There are houses going for $15 and $25 million. Is that too expensive? Not to the people who want to buy it. Everything has its place, and everything is according to what someone decides they're willing to pay. If $325 is too expensive for you, it does not mean it's not perfect for somebody else. I personally would buy $325,000 houses all day and night if they were worth $500. I'm not going to buy a $325,000 house that's only worth $325,000. I would have to get that house for like $230,000, $240,000, which I can do. You guys can do it, man. I'm serious. You can do it. I guess what I'm going to leave you with is this. Stop finding reasons not to do it. If you stop finding reasons not to do it, instead of finding the reasons to do it, to make it happen, it's going to change your life. I mean, there have been people here who have bought silver and gold and everything else. I'm like, man, I didn't think about it. It changed my life. Because certain people, like there are in the chat right now, they close down and say it can't be done. And I'm telling you from personal experience, I was not born rich. My dad did well. He showed me how to buy houses, and then other people showed me different techniques, and then showed me leverage and different things like that. And then you become good at it. But the thing is, if you don't have the knowledge, everything, it's too expensive. And I'm not talking down to you. I'm saying don't let something on the surface preclude you from being successful. preclude you from understanding how to be prosperous. There's no substitution for the knowledge. I don't care what a price is. I don't care what a listing price is. It matters nothing to me. What matters is when I buy something, what can I sell it for? I'm not looking to live in. But if I was looking to live in, if that was my objective, then it would definitely change. Let's see here. Barry, can I build a side family home in an opportunity zone? You're going to have to go on the zip code and find the different things and look at the programs. If you're really interested, send me an email. I'll help you get through some of the programs and understand the as Scott was saying, the regulation. The answer to your question, can you build or do something in an opportunity zone? Yes, you can. There's different ways and different programs that you have to do it. But someone's going to have to steer you. Unfortunately, I didn't have those good roots. You are very blessed. What good roots? My parents divorced when I was 11. My dad and mom didn't speak for years. What good roots? You're assuming again. Stop. I love you. I'm glad we're having these kinds of conversations, but people are precluding. They're putting up roadblocks on purpose. You're never going to win. Never going to win. You're never going to prosper if you find excuses. You have a great family. You're blessed. You guys have maybe heard the term. I'll close with this. You've heard the term probably. If you're black, I'm sure you've heard it. Maybe if you're white, you've heard it. When people say to you, you forget where you come from. Once you make a little money and you want to move someplace, oh, you forget where you come from. And you touched on it when you're talking about my family is I will never, ever, ever forget where I came from because it's my motivation to never go back. And the different perspective is often the difference between attitude and inspiration and motivation. My motivation is I will never forget where I came from because I need to make sure I never go back. I am reminded every single day where I came from. And I know the different people along the way who have helped me and have shown me, you can do this. Huh? You can really do this. Last story. And I've mentioned this before. When I first got into real estate, I had no idea. None. And I was going to one of the local clubs. And the guy said, here's what you do and here's how you do it. Read this book, understand. I'm like, it seems like a lot. And he told me where to go. And I've mentioned this story before. And I'm driving through a neighborhood and I see grass overgrowing. And I walked up to this house and there was a realtor sign. It was covered in grass. And I pulled it up and I went back to my house and I called the number. He's like, this is the first call I've gotten like 2 months. That's because your house looks like shit and the grass is overgrown. But I didn't tell her that. And I'm like, how much you want for it? And she tells me, and she goes, it's on the MLS. I don't care about the MLS. How much? And I offered like $20,000 cheaper. And she said no. 2 days later, she called back and told me how much, she'd accept the price where the owner would. So you never know. I took that contract that my investment was driving around, looking around. I took the recipe that he told me. Here's what I want. Okay, I'll drive around. And I got it signed, contract, had no idea how I was going to pay for anything. Went to his office. You want this? He stroked me a check for $5,000. I'm like, you're paying me $5,000 just for that? You found it. That's your finder's fee. I'm like, they call it an assignment fee. It was my contract. I signed it to him. He wrote me a check on the spot for $5,000. Honest truth. I go home and tell Robin because it's like a couple weeks before Thanksgiving. And I'm like, look, oh my God, you got a check for $5,000. So Please don't tell me it's about my roots. I remember, yeah, I remember it like, and if you heard it before, you know, I said the exact same words because that was the first one. You know the saying, you don't forget your first one. That was it. And I'm like, okay, I like this. I like this, and I've liked it ever since. All right, so you know, if you want to listen to Scott's interview again, and if you have any questions, I wanted to wait until later in the show because a lot of people don't like that I talk about real estate, but I just loved it. So I'll have another one tomorrow, another interview, non-real estate. I think we're gonna do. I think Ashley has me going doing health tomorrow. We're gonna do a Marty. What's Marty's name? Marty, who's on FDA. So we'll talk about that. All right, super chats. Anyone take the oath knows that death is a risk. The sacrifice of the few is great for the many. You're absolutely right. Jeremiah, an amazing source of coverage of the conflict in the Middle East is Matt Morse TV. Dude, why you gotta go ahead and promote somebody else, man? That's kind of cheesy. Big Break Shot Blue. Liberalism has become a mental illness. Who's texting me here? Is it SV? Wait a second. Hey, Midas. Yeah, SV just sent me something. What is this? What is this? I don't know. I'll have to look at it again. Somebody complaining told SV the world's on fire and here Barry's selling stuff. Damn right. I even had like a Dan Bongino moment. You know what? Hold on. Let me see if I can find this because I was gonna hold on one second. Let me see if I have this on my computer. I was gonna create it and edit it down and so I could have it ready to play for people who say stupid stuff like that. Do I have it here? One second. I thought I had it. No, I don't have it close right now. Otherwise, I'd play it. Yeah, this is a for-profit channel. It's a business. Liberal is a mental illness. Kelly Raxter. All Trump has done is what other presidents has promised and has not delivered. And list of Pastor Otha Timbaugh, Lionheart Church, explain in detail it's biblical. Bielka. President Trump is making ICE so much easier. Dems are cooked. I believe that. Chiosop, keep yourself safe. Stay away from Dems, menopausal white liberal women, and rhinos. They are worse than the sleeper cells. Yeah, they are. Nick says, I came from Cuba. We know communism and totalitarian regimes. I support Trump. We are happy that Maduro is in jail. God bless America. Hello, Tim. Tim's got two here. The Republic and our freedoms are balancing on the edge of a sword. Tomorrow, it all could change. Agreed. And Democrats and rhinos want America broken, subservient, and subjugated under an authoritarian, oppressive rule of the deep state. SV, what the hell are you doing? It was great hanging out with you and Robin. Give me back some of my money. Thanks, SV. By the way, just to let you know, SV, if we can get the software done, come here, Midas. If we can get the software done and get it working, he's going to have an Where are you? Where'd you go? Midas. I don't know. He's going to have an expanded role, so we're looking forward to that. If we can get the software to work, that would be pretty cool. The leftists need to live 47 years like Iranians have. Exactly. Reza Pahlavi lives in Potomac, Maryland, outside of D.C. Tim, Trump's war doctrine is justified, legal, unyielding, precise, surgical, decisive, calculated, lethal, and without question. Philip Pet Show. What do you got here? Now, Ashley. Well, you guys be hitting me up all the time here. What you got? All right, we got a press conference. Oh my goodness, at 8 a.m. Tomorrow morning with Pete Hegseth and Chairman Kane. 8 a.m. Okay, that starts the day off early. Are you down with APP, American Prosperity Program? Yeah, you know me. Space Force 6 Gen fighters coming. Yep. You got to wonder how much the Space Force was involved as well and all that stuff. Stephen, China gets 70% of its oil from Iran. It's a big problem for them. That was a Johnny Bravo. That was a bright Barrett when you said, I guess they have to sit there and make sure that it's it's on. If it's all AI, who knows what they're doing? End of the British Empire. Oil from Alaska, Alberta. James Skip. The peace board was set up prior to action in Iran. Now you know why. Nothing by chance. Nathan, Barry, I made investment in American oil back in late 2024. You're about to get pizzed in the next couple days. Nathan, let that putt come my way. Neo, thank you, Barry and team. Awesome show. So proud of our military and President Trump. He's 10 chess moves ahead. AI is key. Genius leader saved by God. I believe that. I definitely believe that. And the people around him. Chiosop, if you can't afford a home, consider house hacking with some friends or family. Pool your resources and get your foot in the door. Grow out of it later. Do whatever you got to do. If it means you eat ramen, you eat ramen. If it means that you have to cut out the lattes every day, you cut out the lattes. If it means you got to take a lower data phone, you have to not pay for Twitter. It all depends what you got to do. Danny, an awesome guy to watch on YouTube is why are you all just coming in here and like promoting other people's channels? Johnny Bravo, great interview with Scott Turner. You've been saying much of all of that for some time now. Indeed. I can't believe people promote other people's channels. Damn. Rudd, where there's a will, there's a way. Chiosop, you can also do lease optioning. I help many people eventually own the homes they rented from me. Also 3% down, 6% seller concession. So many ways. The dude's giving you right there. If you don't know what a lease option is, that's a whole other thing. Chiosop, Google down payment assistance for home buying. Buying homes that are not selling, homeowners will finance everything to get you the house. Also, officer teacher next door from HUD. They were giving homes away in Baltimore for $1. If you were a police officer or a teacher, you could literally buy a house in Baltimore for $1. Where is that? Danny, Barry, do a video on investment in stocks. I'll up that and bring somebody on in the next Ashley's working on somebody. Chiosop, it's all on the net. All you have to do is look. Exactly. Rudd, have you heard of Just City? DEI is alive and well. Harvard is pushing it. I don't pay attention to that stuff too much. Why? Because it doesn't affect my life, and it doesn't affect the life of the people around me. I have to make sure that Robin and Ashley and the kids are taken care of, and her husband. Condition based. By the way, if you could say a prayer for Ashley and her husband. Her husband, great guy, and he's on a mission in Romania, and he happened to leave right before all this stuff broke loose. Don't forget this will do wonders for military recruiting. Oh, it will for sure. And Mariah, thank you, Barry. Love the amazing video on Iraq maneuvers. So very proud of our president, our military, and then so. Midas, where are you? I hear him making noise. He hides behind all kinds of stuff. I was going to pick him up. I don't know where he went. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in on a Sunday. Busy week. Busy week ahead. Let's have some fun. And again, not trying to belittle anybody. I've just been someone who never wants to put up hurdles or crutches. I want to find a way to make things happen. So that's all I was trying to do there. I will see you guys, I guess at 7:30 in the morning.